Just want to give you a heads up that this episode will contain spoilers from up through Chapter 10, the Cosmo Canyon chapter of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, as well as a couple mild spoilers from Final Fantasy XVI.
We're not getting him back. Every now and then he'll speak in that low voice, and I'm like, oh, I missed you. And then the Ninja Turtle comes back, or Sonic the Hedgehog, or whatever the heck he is, and I'm like, no, bring back Red. Welcome to the Final Fantasy Files, where we discuss all things Final Fantasy, from voice changes to Nanaki to what the heck. My name is Jolie Hales.
And I'm Ernest de Leon.
And I'm Spencer Price.
Yes, and today you'll have to forgive me if my voice gives out. I'm a little under the weather, but we're plowing through because we got to discuss Chapter 10. Again, because we didn't get very far into Chapter 10 last time, because it's a massive chapter, right? It's the Cosmo Canyon chapter. It took me 19 hours to complete when I did all of the extra stuff that's involved. And for this particular discussion, as well as the ones in the future until we decide not to, we will be still incorporating our YouTube comments from our YouTube community along the way. So if you are watching this or you're listening to this and you have opinions about Chapter 10 on parts that we haven't discussed yet, you can totally share those with us and they might be read on the next episode. So if you go to the posts, it's like the community posts tab on our channel, scroll down until you find the post that has a picture of Red and it says, "We want your opinions." That's the post that we pull comments from for these particular discussions, and some good comments there.
Yeah. I may spend a little bit too much time in the community comments. So if you're only seeing Spencer respond, tell Ernest and Jolie to up their game and to get into social media.
I know, we got to get in there and start responding more often.
It's so funny because a lot of people will be like, oh, what does Ernest think? Or what does Jolie think? And it's just like, Spencer. So, and I'm the one who's played the least amount of any of the Final Fantasy games, so there's been this drama around me not knowing what I'm talking about.
But I think you played the most of this one, though, because you went through already and you're going through again.
Yeah. Most of Rebirth, but as far as my knowledge of Final Fantasy in general, I'm pretty low on the totem pole.
Yeah, but the developers said that this game is for newcomers alike, right? So what Spencer's referencing is Ernest runs the majority of our social media accounts. I pretty much run YouTube with Spencer's help. And then Spencer runs our X account, or Zwitter or Twitter or whatever you call it. And he kind of got put through the ringer by some of the shipper psychos.
Well, calm down.
Well, let me say this, though. If you're a shipper, that's okay. I'm saying not you, just the shippers. I'm saying the shipper psychos. There's shippers who are, some of them are very nice, and there's the shipper psychos. And they're mean and they're crazy, and I don't care to talk to them. And let me just tell you, so Spencer basically tweeted something about, like, he's looking forward to seeing Tifa do more in the third installment because she hasn't done a whole lot yet. That's his opinion as somebody who hasn't played the OG. And all these people just started reaming him.
They were so mad.
Because you haven't played the OG, you are not allowed to have an opinion, to which I say that's ridiculous. So like those kind of comments, we just kind of, I roll my eyes or you laugh, and you never know what somebody's going through. Like, I actually feel bad when people are so angry about something that's so trivial in life, like a video game character. So like my heart actually goes out to them, and I don't know what they're going through, so I'm trying not to judge. But Spencer, not only does it not bother him, he thinks it's the funniest, most entertaining thing. Legitimately. Like, these people might think that they're like offending him. And it was great because a lot of our community started messaging Spencer and being like, "You okay, man? Like, you're getting really hammered." And Spencer had to tell them, and thank you to those of you in the community who are looking out for us. We love you guys. You're so kind. Our community is the best. But Spencer, you know, he's being honest when he responds back like, "No, this actually doesn't bother me. It's just really interesting." And I would just be sitting, I'd be cleaning or like playing with the kids or something. And I would hear Spencer in another room laughing, like not just like a fake laugh, but just like a hearty, tears coming out of his eyes, laughter. And I would go in and say, "What is so funny?" And he would tell me, read me some of the comments. And I love that they don't affect him for negative because some of them are so mean, but they just make it seem like the people writing them are a little bit not so stable, if that makes sense. I don't know. Is that harsh?
No, I mean, like, I agree. Okay. So, like, I think everyone in this community is, like, afraid of the shippers. Like, that's, like, a dirty word, and it's really strange to me. But I understand because this is a franchise that creates, I don't know, super fans in a way, right? Final Fantasy VII is iconic for a reason. It's been around for 30 years. And there's these people online that are just really into this game.
Really passionate.
No, but like you can see their passion, but their passion is like overriding their sense of
human decency,
kindness and human decency or whatever, right?
Yes.
And like they don't know my personality. They don't know that I'm like kind of this I'm being a little bit cheeky, but it's silly, right? They criticized me for the Tifa video that I did. The very first episode that I ever did with you guys was on chapter 6.
We did come in and say you hate Tifa because everyone's obsessed with their boobs, and people were like, "What?"
Well, right,
obviously there's more to Tifa than just her chest, right?
Sure, but I said that, and Ernest, you've been talking about this. Every time I say anything like about the relationships in this game, Ernest will just go like, "Oh," like, you know, but I'm not trying to stir the pot. The truth of the matter is, you guys brought me in on chapter 6. Chapter 6 was about Costa del Sol.
Right.
And all the marketing was around like Tifa in her bikini.
She's so hot.
And her big boobs and all that stuff, right? So like I came in, I'm like, the only reason people like Tifa is because of her boobs. So now like that's out there that I'm like this misogynist person that like hates Tifa for this thing.
Which is so funny because like as Spencer's wife, I can tell you he is the least misogynistic person probably I've ever met. Like,
I'll say that I'm one of those people that is generally not a social media person.
That's kind of all three of us, to be honest.
Yeah.
And one thing I'll say that's been, you know, pretty positive about our community in general is that in general, across all those socials, I get very few negative ones.
Well, you haven't kicked the Shipper Psycho's hornet's nest yet on any of those channels, have you, Ernest?
Well, it's the same content going on all the other channels, right? To include the shipper versus non-shipper stuff. Now,
Spencer posts regularly on X.
Yeah.
He posts as Spencer. So that's another rule you'll see is like, since there are three of us and we're all posting sometimes occasionally on various channels, the rule that we have on our channel is that whoever's actually doing the post will write their name as the poster. So you'll see on like X, it'll be a lot of Spencer. YouTube will be Spencer and me. I don't know if Ernest responds to comments. Do you respond to comments on social media?
I do, but it's not that often. And so usually I'll heart, right? I'll like the comments or whatever the case is. And every now and then if someone, you know, gets a little bit too rowdy, I'll have to moderate them. But it's rare that I have to do that. And I do look at all the comments that come through. And we do get a lot of comments. But that's my point, is that our community has been very positive in general across the other properties.
Our community is positive. We're lucky. Yeah. We have a really good community.
Ernest, let me tell you what went down the other day. So when you call them shipper psychos, like, okay, the reason why I laugh is because like, they don't know who I am. They don't understand my intentions. And they don't understand that I haven't played the original game. That I'm just this newcomer to the series. You guys brought me on to be like the fresh perspective of someone who's more of like a casual Final Fantasy fan who's on to give that perspective of the re-trilogy. Is it working? I have never played the OG. My very first Final Fantasy game that I played by myself was Final Fantasy VII Remake. I watched Jolie play Final Fantasy 15 and I kind of like played around with it. But the one that I started and finished very first was Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah.
I've since gone on to play like 16 and 15 and like Rebirth and 14, but you know, I haven't gone back to the golden age of Final Fantasy that people like love and revere. So anyway, I'm on Twitter and you know, it's branded as the Final Fantasy Files, but I always put my name -Spencer because I don't want it to be like, I'm not speaking for you, Ernest, or I'm not speaking for you, Jolie, right?
It's not our channel opinion. It's one of the individuals,
I'm literally just on my phone. It's me. Like, if you see Spencer, those are my comments.
You're far braver than I am, Spencer. I'll tell you that.
Here's the thing. So, like, my whole takes on Tifa or whatever, I just, like, want to shake her and be like, say something to Cloud. Like, do something because she has this information as far as I know, as far as I'm aware in the games that I've been playing. She's the only one from Cloud's past that could kind of like help him figure out all these like glitches and stuff that are going on. And I've been very unkindly reprimanded on social media and told that I should not have an opinion because I don't know what the heck I'm talking about, right? And so when Jolie says like these shipper psychos, right? It's so funny because I feel like the majority of people who make content around Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy in general, they're good faith, wonderful people who are just like passionate about the series, right?
Nice humans.
And a lot of them have reached out to me and been like, look, the fan base, they're insane, but you got to just like deal with this. So the other day I wrote a tweet because I was frustrated with Tifa, and it was an interview with Britt Baron, and Britt Baron is the voice actor for Tifa. And she was talking about how she's going to be doing a lot more in the third game because I've been spoiled on it a lot because I'm on the internet. But we all know that something big is going to happen between, you know, like Tifa and Cloud. And maybe those frustrations that I have right now in the game are going to get resolved. So I don't know what's happening. I have this idea, but I watched this interview and I was just like, great, like finally, like Tifa's finally going to do something, you know? And
she's going to come out of her shell.
But then that made everyone think like, you hate Tifa because you talked about her boobs and you don't like her, right?
It was actually a really nice comment. I thought it made total sense.
I wasn't trying to like tick people off, but the funny thing is, so the reason why I'm laughing is just like people are like going to war over me. Like I am like this like this battleground arena and I'm just in the middle of it. And I'm like, you guys have no idea what I really think. And that's why I think it's hilarious because people take it as reality. And all I'm saying is like,
it's so personal to them.
Yeah. The thing that they got mad about was that I said Tifa was gaslighting Cloud. And, you know, they have those conversations about how she's like trying to figure out his past and she's saying things that are testing Cloud.
But she's not just telling him the truth.
And Cloud is like, wait, are you trying to test my memories again? She's trying to do it because he keeps glitching out when she tells the truth, apparently. But these are things that, like, I don't know.
A new gamer is not going to know that kind of depth, though.
So anyway, long story short, I say I want Tifa to finally do something rather than gaslighting Cloud and have something where she drives the plot. Because so far it's been like Barrett's driving the plot, Cloud's driving the plot.
Yes.
Heck, even Red that we're going to talk about today, like Red is a big plot driver, right?
Oh, are we ever?
I feel like Tifa's just kind of stuff has been happening to her and she's been in a supportive role. And I'm like really looking forward to seeing her come out of her shell and do something in part 3. But anyway, so I was crucified and excommunicated from the Final Fantasy.
That's heavy right there.
On our X account. So all the Tifa shipper psychos, because remember, they're different from their actual shippers. It's the psychos.
And there's psychos on the Clara side. There's psychos on every side,
also
right?
shipper psychos, but there's good Claris, there's good Tifa shippers, you know, like. But the ones, they were so mean. Like, I saw some of the comments, and they're just so mean, which makes them that much more hilarious. But at the same time, like, my heart, like, hurts for them. I don't know. I want them to find joy and peace in their lives and not have it be from a video game character. Like, these characters are awesome. They're iconic. They mean a lot to us, but they're nothing compared to, like, touching grass and hanging out with your family. And I want them to have that because I feel like the reason that they get so mean about a video game characters because they don't. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I feel. Spencer just thinks it's hilarious. I feel like they're missing something real in their lives and I want them to have it. I want to give that to them somehow, but I can't. They would yell at me anyway.
I think it's actually the opposite. I think the core issue there, right, and it's well documented at this point that these large social media platforms, they will figure out where your mind is, and then they kind of use the algorithm to just keep feeding you stuff. So
that's true, but I still think it's the responsibility of the person on social media to filter through that and to be like a kind human being.
But you have to remember, these tech companies spend billions of dollars, hire all these psychologists.
But you're putting all the blame on a tech company and not putting any blame on the person being the jerk.
I'm not saying no blame is on them. That they're absolutely responsible for their actions. What I'm saying is the radicalization that leads up to that kind of behavior has been intentionally put there by way of the algorithm. So yes, the person's responsible.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, the algorithm incentivizes that rage engagement.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sure, but these people live in it. This is their life, right? Like they go to war every day on Twitter.
This is their real life.
They get rewarded by the algorithm too. They get the dopamine hits from that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and they get the likes. They'll make a comment that's like, no, you're stupid. You shouldn't have an opinion because you haven't played the OG. Go buy it. And then they get an immediate like 50 likes. And I'm like, I'm new to the series. Like, I'm not trying to offend your girl. And then all of a sudden they're like,
Right.
I get maybe like one like 3 hours later, you know, like, or whatever. And I'm not looking for likes or anything, but you're totally right, Ernest, as far as like
The algorithm
rewards that type of negative engagement. So anyway, this was not a reason to like vent. I'm not worried about it. I don't care. I just wanted to kind of like clear the air and be like, so if you see like Spencer, yeah, I'm talking, but I'm talking from like a new perspective. I haven't played the OG, and I intend not to play the OG. I was planning on playing it before the end of part 3, before part 3 came out, but I want to see if I feel like the new trilogy
works,
holds up on its own
for a new player,
without me playing the original. So,
and it's supposed to, right?
Even though you already spoiled on the ending.
Kind of. Like, I don't know how things are going to work. I know that there's some big thing that I'm not going to talk about right now. And I kind of have like a broad sense in my mind of what happens in the next part. But everyone talks about these things, and I'm like, I don't even know how that's going to happen. I didn't even know like the towns that we went to. I don't even know these characters, right? There's so many things I don't know, and it's fine. So if you're one of those people, like, I'm sorry that I misrepresented the character that you spend your entire life thinking about, but just know that there's more to life than Tifa. There's more to life than Aerith. There's more to life than these characters. We come in and we love these stories and we love these games.
We love them.
But at the same time, there's so much more. You're so much more than just the thing that you like.
I totally agree. I do find relief that those comments like don't offend Spencer. They just don't. They roll off him like water on a duck.
They are so fascinating to me in the weirdest of ways. Like how you could think like that, but it's cool. Whatever.
But everyone just be kind on the internet. You can disagree. I think it's good to disagree. We disagree all the time, obviously.
Oh, yeah. We always do.
Sometimes passionately so, as you saw in our last episode.
I was cracking up when I watched it.
It's bad writing. It doesn't make sense. That's totally fine. It's just...
Well, we don't go around calling people names or...
We never know what somebody's going through. Maybe the shipper psychos are going through... Well, I'm calling them psychos. That's kind of calling them a name a little bit.
That is kind of calling them a name.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like we don't go around like, you know, belittling each other on this show or anything like that. So
No. We want to be kind and respectful. It's very easy to get in like a fight that doesn't matter on a social media channel about a comment, and we just don't care about that. So that's something that we just don't do as a channel. Like, we'll speak our minds here as we have and did just now and call it good. And if people don't like what we say, they don't have to watch. That's fine, because we're here to have a good time and enjoy our relationships with the community, and not here to get a bunch of money and clicks and likes, obviously.
Right.
But anyway, I wasn't planning on going off on that tangent.
Yeah,
but
sorry.
It was something that happened the last few days, and it was humorous. By the way, June for Switch 2, right? For Rebirth?
Yeah.
So spread the word to your Switch 2 people.
Which is crazy because Remake on Switch 2 just came out 2 weeks ago, and then they just announced Rebirth on June 3rd for Switch 2 and Xbox.
Yeah.
So they plan a simultaneous release. The rumor is that Part 3 will be on everything, day one, day and date.
Summer Game Fest?
Hopefully Summer Game Fest is when we're going to learn about Part 3.
Is when they'll actually announce at least the name, like a teaser.
There's a few people that think that it's going to be announced in the rumored state of play that's next week. I don't think it's coming until Summer Games Fest, but
I wonder.
Some people think that we'll get information sooner, but
maybe by some stroke of luck we'll know before.
Anyway, this year for sure.
Is Summer Games Fest also hosted by, what's his name, Keighley?
Yeah, Jeff Keighley.
Man, I hope it doesn't come out. Look what happened to the premiere announcement.
Are you talking about High Guard?
Yeah, and then that thing just completely tanked. Please do not talk about Final Fantasy on his shows anymore. We don't exist.
Well, there was circumstances around.
Wait, what happened? I didn't know this.
There's an independent game, usually the last trailer of the Game Awards. The Game Awards is the most live viewed event of the year. I mean, it does more numbers than the Super Bowl. It's insane, right?
Oh, I didn't know it was more than the Super Bowl. Wow.
Oh, I think so, yeah. But the very last video that's revealed is always like the one last thing is this big deal. So what Ernest is talking about is that they had a final slot. They gave it to an indie developer that it was a new studio, and it was like a competitive multiplayer shooter, kind of a hero shooter type deal.
Okay.
And basically the internet has hated it ever since because...
Well, was it a crappy game, or why did the internet hate it? No. The internet likes to hate. We know this.
Right. But that's the thing. It's like you have this expectation going into like the biggest game reveal showcase of the year. So everyone's thinking like that last spot is going going to be used for a big PlayStation exclusive or
okay.
or like this big game that everyone's excited about. And then people were like,
what is this?
Another one of these, So the internet is already like clowning on it forever. And it was crazy because they didn't make any announcements. They literally had this marketing push and it was the last game shown and then they went radio silent.
Did the game come out?
It's been out for like 2 weeks now.
That sucks for them.
Keeley said something like, in 24 hours or 48 hours, I'll be accepting your apology. The John Hammond quote from Jurassic Park, right?
Yeah.
The game comes out and then within like 24 hours, the player base was gone.
Yeah, you're totally right.
I was shocked.
It had like 90,000 concurrent players on Steam when it launched, which was a decent amount. But now we're sitting around 5,000.
Oh.
And the bummer thing is, though, it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier with the, if you're this terminally online community, it became the thing to hate.
Gotcha.
And to be honest, like it's not really fair to these developers because they just like had a game.
No, it sounds kind of sad, actually.
They're kind of like a victim of circumstance because they were put into this situation where I don't know why they got the last slot. There's all these rumors about how Keeley gave it to him or maybe something fell through, so they used that to kind of fill the hole, right?
Could have been.
But it has been reported that they didn't pay for that slot, which is like insane.
Oh, weird.
That's like the most viewed slot out of anything ever. But it actually hurt them more than helped them, to Ernest's point, right? When you say, don't show Final Fantasy VII Part 3 at Keeley's show. But
yeah, I was like, we don't exist.
No. But like Final Fantasy VII has a reputation. Rebirth was shown off at Summer Game Fest, whenever it was, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be huge. If Final Fantasy VII Part 3 is released at Summer Game Fest and it's like Nintendo Switch 2, Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, Epic Game Store, day and date, like poof, poof, poof. Like it's going to be a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So I'm actually looking forward to that. I know you're being a bit cheeky, Ernest, about how like don't release it at Keeley's show.
Oh, really? For sure. Yeah.
But that's the rumor anyway. So
I'm anxious to see just even what the name is.
Yeah.
My vote is probably for the return, but we'll see. Like, or return.
It's got to be Reunion.
Reunion, but
No,
they already
Reunion
used
was
it for
Crisis
Core.
I mean,
The funniest take online, though, is that like Square Enix is so bad at naming names that they would just use Reunion again.
Yeah, it could be.
There's things like Reclaim,
Redonkulous is actually what it probably should be.
Redonkulous was funny. But exciting time in the Final Fantasy VII news arena.
We should see some good stuff coming up here over this next year, I think, for sure. And when it comes to this game, it is worth pointing out every time that we get together, just in case the newbies come, right, that Spencer and I have both beat Rebirth, right? I did it on normal mode. I did all the side quests, like kind of completionist style. And then Spencer also played it, but he just streamlined the story on normal mode. And now he's playing it a second time on hard mode, where he's doing all the side quests this time around. So he's playing along with us on hard mode. And we know for certain now that Ernest is also playing along with us, which is great.
Chapter 10, Ernest, we know.
That means he's done with chapter 10. And so he's probably at the very beginning of chapter 11, and he's playing on story mode.
Oh, no, I'm well into chapter 11. I'm not in the beginning of it, but I haven't finished it either. So.
All right. Good deal.
Does Kate Sith ring any bells in terms of being significant in any way, Ernest?
Not yet from my gameplay.
So you're at the beginning.
But like from the OG, yeah. I'm assuming.
Well, yeah, I'm not talking about the OG, but yeah. Okay.
You will know when we talk about K6.
That gives me a little bit of a sense of where you're at.
I've been waiting for it because
I know. We keep spoiling it for you.
We closed the end of the last segment. We kind of teased it at the end of that as to where this is going. So I'm waiting for it. But I'm also wondering like how they're going to play it out.
Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow.
Oh, one more tangent. Did you notice my shirt?
Yes.
Oh.
Marathon 87, Cactuar Island. Huh?
Very nice.
It's a throwback to a few different things, actually. So 87 is when Final Fantasy, the first one, came out, all the way back in 1987.
My birth year.
Yeah, it's your birth year.
What's up?
Which Ernest played. That was your first, right?
I played it. I was a little kid, obviously, and did not know what I was doing.
Did you like it as a little kid?
You know what? I loved it.
Oh, cool.
And these games came with manuals in them, and they were printed, and they were full color.
Yeah.
And this game was one of those that if you didn't have the manual, it was practically impossible to know how to play it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine it'd be so hard.
I was a little kid. I was 7, 8 years old when I played it, and I really had no idea what I was doing. But the manual and the map were what like drew me in and forced me to like kind of stick with it and kind of play through it. So it was actually things that don't exist in modern games anymore.
I think it's so cool that that was the first Final Fantasy game that you ever played was actually the first one. Because that's not the case for many people. Usually we're introduced, or many people are introduced along the way, and then sometimes they'll play backwards and then play forward, which is what I did. So that's pretty cool.
In full transparency, 1 was not their greatest work. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great.
Yeah, I think most people know that.
That's pretty common. But it's cool because 87, right? 87, and it says Cactuar Island. Cactuar Island, I think, is from Final Fantasy VIII, if I remember right. But Cactus Island is from Final Fantasy VII, and it's a marathon Cactuar. See, I have run 4 marathons.
Jolie is being nice.
And probably 100 half marathons.
She's ran the Boston Marathon, which is like the premier marathon that you have to qualify for. She's like freaking good.
I can't get my jelly beans out of my bag because my fingers are frozen.
I'm not fast anymore, though.
Shout out to my awesome wife who runs marathons.
Thanks, sweetie. Thanks for reading that part of the script.
I married it. This is just off the top of my head. I married into this like really fit running family, and I'm like, you guys do what? I play video games. You guys run marathons?
I think it's a nightmare for anybody who doesn't run to marry into a running family. I would imagine that like...
Oh, it's good though.
Because we do turkey trots on Thanksgiving. People who don't run are probably like, you do what? On Thanksgiving? Are you insane? I get the sentiment. Because I was that way. I didn't start running till my late 20s. But anyway.
My wife, too, started running, and I was like, well, that's great. I hope you enjoy it.
Does she run now?
Not right now, because our kids are really small, and she hasn't gotten back to it. But
yeah, it's hard to have time.
There's like no time.
But she used to do several a year.
That's awesome. Shout out to your wife.
That's way cool. Full marathons or halves?
Both,
Whew.
Depending on the event. And whereas I've refused to run anywhere. I show up when I show up. So
yeah, I love half marathons. I think full marathons are the worst. I hate them.
I was going to say, I think, aside from the hardcores, most people, they will do 1 or 2 fulls and then be like, you know what, I think half is where it's at.
Yeah.
And they kind of just settle in there.
Some people really love fulls, though. Like, my sister loves them, and they're always miserable for her. And I'm like, why do you love these?
And those people are also psychos.
Yeah. Imagine a Tifa shipper psycho who ran marathons.
Watch out.
They probably do run marathons, man. They need to channel that energy somewhere, and they're not getting it all out on the internet.
No, I think they'd be nicer if they ran, because they wouldn't have any energy to put into the anger on the interwebs.
What is the one that's like 100 miles long called?
Ultra
marathon?
Yeah. But they're different lengths.
Tifa's doing an ultra marathon in their minds.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Every day, man, they go to war.
Every day.
That's fine.
Oh, it's crazy.
Must be nice to have the time. Let me just say that.
Yeah, we don't. That's true. But that's what I'm saying. That's why they do it, because they don't have somebody to love in real life or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Also, back on track.
That took a turn.
Well, we will be spoiling Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. We're only going to spoil it up through Chapter 10, just in case there are those latecomers. So just throwing it out there. So as far as our last discussion went, we didn't get very far into Chapter 10 in our last discussion. We talked about our first impressions of Cosmo Canyon, which is beautiful, the region itself, right? The cliffs, all that, the music. And then we pretty much spent the bulk of the episode talking about chocobo stuff. It was like wrangling the chocobos. We spent time on that, training the chocobos, doing the gliding courses to train them, and talking to Shawnee, who has her own issues about her chocobo-related trauma.
And we all agreed how amazing that entire storyline was.
We all agreed.
It was truly inspirational.
I love that Ernest and Jolie disagreed so vehemently.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's funny. Have you read any of the comments, Ernest, about our last discussion on YouTube?
As a matter of fact, I did. And I can't remember the young lady's name. And I say young, she may not be younger than I am, but the one who had my back and said, I think he's right.
Yeah.
It was probably Al Chat Noir. Al Chat Noir is a member of our community. We see her.
She was like, yeah.
But there were actually a couple of them who said that they agreed with you. I do not. I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, but I was just like.
But I think I made that clear.
I was like, there's no way this is serious. There's just no way. If this is, I don't even know what to say.
Here's the thing, for the record, it is possible that maybe the writers intended it to be sarcastic and funny, but if that's the case, the music composers didn't get the memo, and the actors definitely did not get the memo, because they were not playing that beat at all, right? So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Yuffie wasn't like, hey, Cloud,
Interpret Chocobo. Wink, wink, and there wasn't funny music.
Use those interpreting skills that you don't really have.
Yeah, and he wasn't like, here's what the Chocobo. So, there was none of that. There was no beat.
They play it like it's serious. And it's funny because the internet is split on this. Some people are like, oh yeah, Cloud totally speaks Chocobo. And then other people are like, no, Cloud's just being funny. I'm like, when is Cloud funny, guys?
Oh, here's another. I didn't even tell you this, Spencer.
What?
So I went to an LLM and tried to find the email address of one of the translation team people so I could ask him this and just be like, look, there's this debate that we're having.
Right. You're right.
On the Final Fantasy
that's good.
And do you know the answer that the LLM gave me?
What'd they say?
They said...
What did the AI overlords tell you?
They gave me a name and they said, but you probably shouldn't reach out to them right now because they have pulled themselves off of social media because they got reamed by the shipper community.
No, that's
wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's a real thing.
But I was like, we just went through this. I was like, are you serious?
The developers don't even interact with them.
And then I was like, I felt bad because they're going to just think that I'm part of that or I'm like a hater on, and I've been critical of the writing. So I was just...
And you really just want to know if Cloud speaks Chocobo or not.
I just want to know. I want to know the intent because the mocap actors also did not get the memo because they play it straight too.
So that's one of the reasons I don't have any of that on my phone and don't, I look around and I see people, just kind of glued to their screens and I'm like, this is not good.
Yeah, it's true.
It's not healthy for you,
And the stuff we're posting is not rage bait. It's literally just...
Well, Spencer apparently is.
I was not trying to rage bait.
He didn't know it was rage bait, but it was apparently.
I'm still learning about this community. And so now I'm like, okay, you can't say anything bad about this girl or that girl. And then nobody will bother you.
Which is so sad.
But I can still have dumb opinions about the game that I haven't finished.
No, you can't because you haven't played the OG.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I was not allowed to. I was not allowed to have an opinion.
You're not allowed to have an opinion about the
that's
new
right.
games.
You're right.
No.
You're right. Sorry. Yeah. I'll just be quiet.
Be corrected.
I'll let you guys talk.
Why are you even here?
Yeah, why am I here?
Is this where I threatened divorce again?
Yes. Divorce!
We might as well get a divorce. I didn't threaten divorce in the last episode. I'm kind of disappointed.
Yeah, but that's a stream joke. You don't threaten divorce in all of our podcast recordings.
Yeah, but the stream community watches these.
This is true.
No, I would never divorce Spencer. He would take half my assets anyway. Just kidding.
She doesn't want me getting off with all the good stuff.
It's cheaper to keep him.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. No, I'm so lucky, you guys. I honestly found my soulmate.
We don't have to go about
so
how
good.
I'm a good person.
Whatever. Okay.
It's fine.
Okay, back to this chapter. We talked about how we mentioned the Chocobo stuff. There's a little bit of a who knows with that particular side quest, and maybe we'll get some answers down the line. Seriously, if I ever do a panel and there's developers or writers there, I'm going to ask that question, that and a list of 100 others. But we also, at the end of that episode, we spent time breaking down that quick conversation in the cave with Kate Sith, right, on the way to Cosmo Canyon Village, where he asks about Sephiroth, and that sent us into a whole other discussion about whether or not Sephiroth actually makes sense to a newcomer gamer. So if you didn't catch it, go back and watch it. It's kind of interesting. But that's pretty much the gist of it. So when we last left off, we had just gone through that cavern on the way to Cosmo Canyon Village. And so we're still following the many big wooden signs that are guiding us to Cosmo Canyon. And we're starting to see more man-made artifacts along the way, which make it feel like we're getting closer to some kind of inhabited civilization, right? Which, of course, is more fantastic world building on the part of Final Fantasy. I love how immersive these regions are and how they use all the elements at their disposal to basically paint the picture of a particular location, and Cosmo Canyon fits right into that. It's so beautiful. It's very fun to walk through, and you're starting to anticipate, hey, I'm coming to a village, right? And before we actually arrive at the village entrance, we catch a cliffside view. Do you remember this? As you're approaching, Barrett and those guys start talking.
Behold Cosmo Canyon, a sacred sanctuary where the planet's greatest minds gather.
It's beautiful. More than I ever imagined.
And that, of course, gets Barrett really excited. And he gets all giddy about arriving there because Barrett is such a big fan of the planet.
Come on, let's pick up the pace. I can hear it calling my name.
Yeah, me too.
Well, they just had this big talk in Gongaga, and now there's motivation that you disagree with, right?
She knows Sephiroth ain't going down easy, and that she needs others to step up. But we're the only ones who can, don't you see? We need to commit, put our lives on the line to save hers. You in?
Yeah, you bet we are. Huh?
Wow, what have I walked in on? You know, there are places better suited to these kinds of conversations.
Like Cosmo Canyon.
I just don't think there's urgency. I don't necessarily disagree. I don't think it was painted out well enough to be their motivation.
Yes.
Like, it's not concrete enough.
I think your issue is with the segue, not necessarily the motivation, right? Like,
Right.
The urgency sure isn't there.
The urgency is my biggest problem.
When Sisney came in and was just like, there are better places for these sorts of conversations, and it's like...
It was so writing to me.
Yeah, writing was jumping off the page. But what my point is, it's like, Barrett finally is excited to go do something rather than just be like, oh, Cloud, like, I guess there's some robe guys.
That's true. I agree with that.
To paint a picture, the way he acted on that ledge where he was like, we need to pick up the pace.
Let's pick up the pace. I can hear it calling my name.
The excitement in his voice was kind of the way that the girls were talking at the saucer. When they first got there and they were like all excited and they wanted to go do stuff.
Oh, that's a good point.
There was like this excitement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Teensy little break. All those in favor? Me.
The guys were like, yeah, whatever. Like now it's the reverse. Barrett and Red are super excited, right?
That's a good point.
To get in there. And the other ones are like, okay, we're here. Yeah, we'll go.
The girls were stoked about the beach and about the gold saucer, and the boys are... Well, not even the boys. I guess Barrett is stoked about planetology, the home of planetology.
Yeah, and Red is excited, but
Red's excited too.
He's excited for other reasons.
He's going home.
But remember, Red was like closet excited about the gold saucer too. Remember that they all wanted to do stuff, and he raises his hand, and Yuffie like pets him like a dog and stuff.
That's right.
Yeah, so they're excited, which is so funny too, because planetology is like a religion, and we'll talk more about that in the next episode. And the religion itself is so much more formalized than Barrett is, but Barrett's like a huge fan of the planet. They're just very different. It's an interesting juxtaposition. But anyway, okay, so we're arriving at the village, and we finally arrive at that big bridge that serves as basically the welcoming point into the village of Cosmo Canyon itself. So we start jogging across it, and at this point, I think everything is looking pretty promising. I remember when I played through this for the first time, I was stoked. You can see the cool windmill in the distance and the design, the unique design of the village that's like right in front of you. And if you've played the OG like I have, it's like, oh, I can't wait to see how they interpret that into like better graphics and what they're going to do with it.
You see the giant telescope that's there, you know?
Yeah.
That's the first thing I noticed, right? Planetology, and they have it big there on the ridge.
It's also got the planetarium, right? That you can see from the distance.
Yeah, and it's just sitting there on the ledge. It looks kind of cool.
Yeah, and then if you look at the bridge itself, did you notice the bridge itself, the craftsmanship on the bridge? Like, even that tells the story. It's very much aligned with the rest of the village. I don't know. I was stoked to see what this village location was actually going to have in store for us. And then, I'm going to try to keep a straight face through this, because I have to explain what happens before I give any opinions on it. We hear some high-pitched male voice yell, "Hey, guys, it's me! I'm back!" And then wise old Red runs like a giddy preschooler out in front of us to greet one of the entrance guards. And the entrance guard bends down to like excitedly pet Red, kind of like a dog, and his flame tail is wagging furiously. And then our party actually approaches, and the flame tail like almost hits Barrett in the face, you know, as they're approaching, which is kind of funny. And the NPC guard, who, by the way, the voice actor for that simple NPC does a pretty good job. So anytime I notice somebody, I'm like, even if it's a small role, but they're owning it and they feel authentic, I'm going to call it out, of course. This guy does a pretty good job. But this guard, with the good voice actor, he excitingly like welcomes Red home.
Nanaki? I can't believe it. It really is you. We were so worried. Welcome home.
Whoa.
Now, why don't you go pay your respects to fellow Bugenhagen? Come on.
And before Red proceeds, he tells the guard, using that high-pitched voice,
You can let them through. They're good people, I promise. After all, they're the reason I'm here.
And then he scampers off into the village and he leaves us behind as though nothing weird has just happened. And you know that I have a lot of opinions about this, but before I go into my thoughts, because I do tend to be the most overbearing and I'm the host of this, right? I don't want to taint authentic opinions. And by the way, we've mentioned it in other episodes. Spencer and I do not talk about this game, except for the chapters we've already covered, to each other at home.
Yeah, I don't tell her about it.
It's actually really hard, but we do not do it. We do not share opinions at home about this game because we want all of those first impression opinions to be shared for the first time here.
Save it for the recording, Joe.
Save it for the recording. Yeah. But before we get to Spencer, I do want to go to Ernest and get your authentic opinion here. Ernest, what do you think about what just unfolded in this scene?
First of all, I laughed when it happened because, he went from the kind of stoic, deep voice.
A sacred sanctuary where the planet's greatest minds gather.
To obviously an adolescent teenager boy.
Hey, guys! It's me! I'm back!
Which I thought was funny. But then Barrett's reaction to it.
Yeah, Barrett was good.
Which is, what the heck was that?
What in the hell was that? Hey guys, it's me! Who?
Yeah, Barrett's reaction was really cute and funny.
And I couldn't figure it out, right, again, because up until this point, you know of Red's backstory with Hojo.
Yeah.
But you don't really know the other part of it, right? And so I thought it was funny and I laughed about it, but I was also like, what are they going to kind of brand as the impetus behind this? Or what is the... And you end up finding out later in the chapter, right? We probably won't cover it in this episode.
Well, we can mention it here. So there is a point not too long after this where Barrett asks the question like,
I suppose it was your duty to act the old man.
I wanted you to treat me as an equal, not a dog.
But he said it in the low voice.
Right.
True, yeah.
He doesn't say it in his teenager voice.
So his reason for pretending or having the low voice and then switching was because he didn't think that the party would respect him or like see him as an equal or something.
Exactly. And yes, that's the reason at the end of the day, but there's a lot deeper psychological stuff involved in that whole like train of thought that got him there.
So you think that the reason that he pretended had more to do with the backstory we learn more about later and how he had like a psychological issue that made him feel he had to pretend?
Yeah, so like the reason he did it, right, his declared reason is why he did it, right? But the things that happened that led up to that being his choice to do it that way, as opposed to just speaking in a normal voice like he would have, it's like a combination of his backstory as well as what happened with Hojo. So like the backstory in his village before he was captured and then his time with Hojo, put those together. Those experiences are what led to his choice to alter his voice in that way, right? For his stated purpose of getting respect versus being treated as a pet or an animal or whatever the case is, as a peer, as an equal, right?
Yeah.
Okay, can I ask a few questions around that just so I understand? Because that sounds interesting to me. So the reason he states on its face is that he wanted to be respected.
I wanted you to treat me as an equal, not a dog.
The story that you're talking about that we're not going to get into in a lot of detail, the viewers probably know because we're spoiling up through chapter 10, is that he thought his dad was a coward and it turns out that his dad was actually a hero, right? So how does that misconception before he has the realization justify it in his mind psychologically to pretend to have the deep voice according to what you're saying?
Yes, it has to do with the fact that one of the reasons he didn't understand the truth behind his dad and everything else was that it was hidden from him because he was so young. And the concern was that he was too young to handle the truth. And if they had given him the truth, he would have acted in a way that was foolhardy or whatever you want to call it. And it would have created a disaster, right? So like in his own mind, he was treated less than.
For being young?
So we find out later that being young is the reason that the truth behind that story was hidden from him.
Yeah.
So he didn't know that up until that part, right? But he also understood that he wouldn't be seen, or he felt like he wouldn't be treated as a peer, as an equal, if he didn't speak in a much more adult or older tone of voice.
I kind of like that, yeah.
I think that's really interesting. That's why I'm trying to make sure I understand it, because I didn't think about that too much, but I think that's a really interesting perspective. So are you saying that because... Oh, but he doesn't know.
Well, but like he knows that something was hidden from him, right? So it's like...
No, he doesn't, though.
Oh, that's right. When
he doesn't know that yet.
When Bugenhagen shows him the thing, he doesn't know what it is.
Right. So he doesn't know something's been hidden.
Right. Okay.
So not having that knowledge, what's his incentive?
Because I was thinking Ernest was like...
No, it was the lack of the knowledge of what happened, right?
But he didn't know he had a lack of knowledge at this point. He thought he had the truth. His truth was just incorrect.
It was incorrect, but I don't like to use the word incorrect in this case because you got to remember that his choice to do that, there's a combination of things there, right? Like, think about how Hojo treated him for all those years. And then think about how he felt prior to Hojo, assuming that his father and his family line or whatever were less than.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he thought his father was less than, but his mother was still noble, right?
Right, but I mean, he's the child of both of them. Right.
Yeah.
And so,
he was growing up to take over his father's responsibility as the Watcher of the Veil.
So he had like psychological issues knowing that he was the son of a coward in his mind. And so he had some kind of...
It's got to be like a complex.
Basically daddy issues that gave him a complex that made him feel like he has to act older.
There's partly that. And there's also the part of like, he felt almost to make up for it, he had to be the protector. Right?
Yeah.
He mentions that several times later in the chapter.
Yeah.
And then all of that to become a prisoner of Hojo, become experimented on, treated like even less than a pet.
Yeah.
Right? So he now is in a position where he has friends, he has a peer group, but he wants to be respected amongst them as a peer and not treated. He obviously felt less than because of what he was told about his dad. And then he was treated as less than by Hojo the entire time he was in captivity. Basically, his entire life up until this point is being treated as less than, not equal, not a peer. And so his choice to use that deep voice is a result of all of that trauma that is built up on him from the minute he was born and then lied to about his dad all the way through the experiments that were done on him in Hojo's lab. So all of that put together is what put that in his mind that he needed to use the deeper voice in order to be treated with respect, which probably isn't true, right? At the end of the day, I think we've sussed that out thus far in the story.
It isn't true. Like, he didn't need to do it. Right. Like, he came to the wrong conclusion.
He came to the wrong conclusion, didn't need to do it.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
But he didn't understand that.
I see.
I think there's a point where he realizes that in this chapter.
That he could have been himself from the beginning, kind of a thing.
He could have been himself from the beginning, and also because the story of his father that he was told wasn't true, a lot of the other things that were underpinning, like a lot of his opinions and kind of his personal construct or how he viewed himself in the world.
Misconception,
were incorrect. And so he grows a lot. And it's more than just coming home. And it's more than just learning these things. Like, he actually grows as an individual.
He has like an arc.
As a result of all this.
Okay. So I think that idea is pretty cool. And that idea could justify, at least in part, why he did what he did, like why he would have a lower voice. I guess, like, I'm bummed that the story doesn't explore that much. Like, it explores his personal arc, but the only part of the game that gives us any kind of clue, like, actually on its face, so that even references the whole, like, speaking in a deep voice and pretending or whatever, is that one little conversation where Barrett asks him one question and he says he didn't want to be disrespected, right? What you're saying is a much more deeper, much more interesting psychological reason that would make sense. And I think they should have probably explored that instead of having maybe a couple of the mini games, right? Because I don't know if that's what they're intending or not. You can tell the arc that he has is definitely intended. But as far as the explanation, to me at least, of why he was speaking in a low voice, I don't think that's fleshed out very well when what you're telling me is actually pretty cool. And I think it would have been great had they gone in that direction and explored it.
And I couldn't figure it out either. So, to your point, right? Because you've said quite a few times, like, there are areas where they do very well at this kind of stuff. And then this is one of those where I obviously did not know or realize or even understand any of that at this point. Right. So I was just like, what?
Yeah, like right at this moment.
Hey, guys, it's me.
come back!
I can understand the surface level concept of I'm using a deep voice so that you think I'm older.
Yeah.
And therefore we're peers. I'm not a child or a pet to you, right? So I can understand that on the surface level. And by the time we get to the end of this chapter, I understand a lot more. But you're right that at this point, aside from like a cursory knowledge or level of understanding, they really didn't sell the story.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So here's a difference. Okay, here's a difference between the way that you and I view the game, Ernest. Is like we always joke about like how you're on the developer side and how I'm kind of the critic of the developers. And I think that it makes me miss things that could have been intended because you will look at something, and if you have a question that you care about or you wonder about in the game, you will think, well, where is it that the developers put it so that I can understand it? How can I make this make sense within the story that they're telling, right? So it will make you like look for things like, hey, it's probably in this arc of the story that ties therefore to his low voice, which very well, to be honest with you, that could have been what they were thinking, to be honest. Somebody like me says, if it's not presented in the story in a clear manner, I don't dig any deeper. I just say, oh, it didn't make sense and that's not cool, right? Because, I mean, as a storyteller, as a professional storyteller, I think everything needs to be in the story. I don't think you should have to dig, but at the same time, I will admit that makes me miss things that they really might have intended, but just didn't tell very well, right? Because I got the whole arc with Nanaki, the like mini arc and him like his coming of age story, whatever. But I still don't think that they tied that well enough to the low voice thing myself. But I'm bummed that they didn't because I like the idea that you're explaining to me. And I think that that would have been good, you know?
I agree with you. At this point, it hasn't been sold. And I would even agree with you further to say that even after I got to that point where he finds out the truth, which was, as far as I'm concerned, one of the best storytelling events in this game so far. Even then, I still had to go look for it. It's exactly what you're saying. I had to go find it. I was like, why does this not make sense? Now, once I sat down and thought about it and actually did research, then it all made sense to me.
Yeah, that's the issue I take is like you shouldn't have to do outside reading, right?
Right. That wasn't laid out. And I get it, right? Like, where's the line where the writers have to be on the nose?
Well, you don't have to be on the nose. You can explore without being on the nose, but you have to tie it together in the narrative somehow.
Yeah, no, but I agree with you. And it's funny because as we do more and more of these episodes, I see more and more of your viewpoint because I realized that I had to go look for it. It wasn't just given to me. And to be honest, somebody who's been playing RPGs for 30 years, I actually appreciate that because it's like a side quest for me, right? I'm going to figure out.
I think you're not alone on that. I think there's a lot in our community who enjoy. And to your point, though, I enjoy that as well, but only for additional stuff. I think story and plot need to make sense within the cohesive game itself, right? And that the major narrative story beats should all be pretty clear. But this is good. See, Ernest, we're coming together. We're agreeing on some stuff. See, we don't disagree about everything, most things, but not everything.
It's like when Windows decided they were going to put a terminal in and then Linux started doing stuff like Windows. It's like, wait a minute, y'all are too close now.
That's exactly what came to mind for me, too.
You need to back into your corners because this is getting out of control.
I understood that reference.
What about you, Spencer? What do you think?
Well, to talk about what we're speaking to right now, I kind of agree with Ernest and kind of agree with Jolie. And I'm not trying just to play like devil's advocate for both sides. Or angel's advocate. I don't know what. But like,
I'm the devil.
I don't think a story has to spell out everything. And I know that's not what Jolie's saying.
No, I
like
don't
it.
think...
No, I know. You kind of came across as if you're like, if it doesn't like spell it out clearly, like in the narrative, then like I'm not going to think about it more.
It doesn't have to spell it out clearly. It just has to allude to it and tie it to the previous thing of him speaking in a low voice in some kind of narrative form. We have to connect the dots.
Like some type of foreshadowing or some type of implications
kind of visual,
that's happening.
Anything,
I agree.
Right. Yeah.
What I will say, this scene is notorious for being like a total rug pull, like door slam in your face moment. Like, what the heck? Like,
it was intentional, obviously, right?
So as I'm experiencing it for the first time, yeah, I'm floored by it. I'm like, who is talking, right?
Right.
Oh, it's Red. That's Red's voice? What the heck?
Hey, guys! It's me! I'm back!
Part of it because I love the deep Red voice.
Yes, heed the voice of experience.
Like, I love that voice, right? I grew accustomed to Red's voice. I'm like, that's Red. Like, he's this wise, whatever. Like, it was effective. But then when he switches over to his younger, real voice, it is jarring and you snap out of it. And I think this is kind of a tale that we've been talking a lot about on Final Fantasy Files. Even if the intentions are good from the developers, and even if there is a reason behind this happening, the execution falls flat quite often, right? And I think this is an example of the execution not going so well and maybe not matching up with what their intention was,
with
right?
With their vision.
Yeah, with their vision. And like, I don't know much about this. I don't know why, if this happened in the original or what.
I'll explain in a minute.
Okay. But like when I'm playing this, I'm just like, you can tell that the developers like know that this is a weird moment because they wouldn't animate Barrett to be like, what the hell was that? And then he like mimics the way that like Red dances. But this is the part of the execution that's weird is that Red's like, hey guys, like I'm back. It's so good to see you,
I like how his voice is like now a 7-year-old girl.
That's like what it sounded like to me. Hey guys, when I played it the first time, I'm like, I think I did a pretty good impression. That's like almost exactly what it sounded like.
It is pretty jarring.
But the developers animate Barrett and his dialogue is speaking for us because we're also confused. We're saying like, what the heck was this?
Yes.
But it's the execution that's so weird because then the party, Aerith says something I have in my notes. It's like,
he's such a softie.
And then like they act like nothing crazy just happened.
This is one of my biggest issues.
And then they just like continue on where if that wasn't just like, wait, we've like trusted you on half of our journey.
Yes.
You fought Sephiroth against us. You literally told us that the visions we were having in our heads that we're playing like the end of the OG game or Advent Children. I don't know. I know whatever people talk about. There's that moment, and they're like, what was that?
What the hell did I just see?
A glimpse of tomorrow if we fail you today.
And that was the source of so much theory crafting and so much stuff. It's like, was Red lying to us the whole time? Like, to me, I'm like, this is such like a betrayal of who this character is.
Of trust.
And they just kind of like
skirt
move
by it.
on
Whatever.
Without even talking about it. So that like, okay, like I like what Ernest was saying and I could get behind that. I was like saying like maybe there's that scene in Remake when he's like a rabid dog when they first meet him, and Aerith like calms him down by touching him. And like, that's when he says like he understood the whispers and all this stuff. He gets like this cosmic connection with Aerith when that happens, right?
Yeah.
But it calms down and then he speaks to them.
I am that which you see before you, nothing more.
From that moment on, Red is like the liaison between like the spiritual and the cosmic.
Yes.
Anything, he's the guy that you go to. He tells us more stuff than Aerith does.
Whispers. Perhaps best described as arbiters of fate. They are drawn to those who attempt to alter destiny's course and ensure they do not.
Like capital D? Destiny?
The flow of the great river that is the planet, from inception to oblivion.
And you're saying that flow is somehow fixed?
Yes, for it is the will of the planet itself.
In my mind, I'm like, Red's the guy. Like, Red's the man who knows everything. I put so much trust in him, and I've been following him around being like, this is the guy that knows everything.
Yes.
Him and Aerith.
When Aerith reached out to me, I found this knowledge of the whispers.
So when Ernest is talking about how this might be a thing where it's like a defensive mechanism, not defense mechanism, but something like to protect his insecurities behind
like part of his kind of complex.
Yeah, but not being seen as serious, right? It's like, yeah, I see that, right? But they don't execute it at all.
They don't paint that picture.
It's like this abrupt shift.
Yes.
And then they just move on as if nothing happened. And that really was very abrupt. It was very like, this is strange. And I want more discussion.
It was also weird because think about it, like Barrett has his reaction, right? And then Red talks to the guard and says,
you can let them through. They're good people. I promise.
After all, they're the reason I'm here.
And then he just, like...
leaves.
Like just walks off and leaves them behind.
You would think that after totally changing your personality and your physical voice, right, your audible voice, that you might wonder if the people you've been spending all this time with would have some questions, you know? But maybe that's pointing to his youth. I don't know.
Right. He just ran off and they're all kind of just standing there like, what just transpired in front of us?
Right. But only for a second.
This is where I'm confused because the developers are they've painted themselves into a corner. They're in this box, right, of their own making because this is a remake, but then there's also things that are changing. So they have to tell the events of the original story. So I'm like, if the events of the original story were told poorly, do they have to just kind of do it like that's how it was, right?
So I argue that they shouldn't.
Right.
That they should fix things that don't work.
I think so too.
But at the same time, there is a little bit of understanding that I have if it is something straight out of the OG.
But then you're going to have purists that come in and be like, that's not how it was done in the OG. It's like, you change things.
They're in a hard spot, right? Because they're like, this is for everyone, including people who haven't played the OG.
Right. So for me, it just feels like they're like, well, this moment has to happen. So let's just rip the Band-Aid off and change his voice and then go along with it.
But I don't think it had to happen like this.
And I don't think that's good. I think this is poor execution because I'm taken out of the moment. They do the best they can with it, but I need more answers.
Right.
I want to ask Jolie a question.
Yeah.
If I were to rewrite this scene, I would have written it something like Red walks up to the guard and he realizes in that moment that like he's been using this fake voice with his friends. And if he uses that same voice on the guard is going to be like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And so it would have been one of those things where like he would have kind of dealt with it in that moment where he would have had to talk to the guard in the lower voice, but then would have looked at his friends like, I realized that this is the first time you were hearing this and like kind of slowed it down to where kind of everybody's coming onto the same page at the same time. But the abrupt like talking in a fast voice, let them through, they're good people and running off was just kind of like, whoa. What just happened?
Yes.
Yeah.
What just happened here?
Weird.
It was super confusing. There's a number of different ways you could have approached this. I personally would not have done a voice change myself. I don't think the voice change works. I think it's weird. I think it's confusing, even to people who have played the OG. Some of them, I think, were still surprised. I played the OG. I did not expect a tangible voice change.
Oh, this is not like a thing.
No, some people would say it is. I think those people are really stretching it.
Because I've heard rumblings on the internet being like, well, there was because it was only text. There's no voice acting, right?
So it's interpretation.
They could have gotten away with just them keeping their voice, right?
I don't know a soul who before playing this game ever talked to me about 7 and said, Red's voice should physically change here. Nobody said.
Right.
Nobody was thinking that's at least who played the English version, right?
Sure.
But if you are just gonna die on this voice change hill and you have to put it in there as developers, they should have done something else, been maybe more tongue-in-cheek about it. Maybe before Red runs in with this high voice, maybe he could look at the party and say, well, this is gonna be a little bit weird for you guys, but try not to freak out too much, and then do your run-in. And then there has to be some kind of reconciliation about this, conversation about this after the fact, where they're it's not just one question from Barrett, where they actually hash this out, right? But anyway, I'm getting into my opinions. I want you to say anything else you want to say, Spencer, and then I'll jump into my thoughts.
I mean, basically, it's I feel like Barrett reacts to it appropriately.
Yes.
Because it's weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But not for long enough.
But Aerith has these conversations with Red, and we've heard this voice before, right? We heard this voice.
Now we know what it is.
I could feel them slipping away one by one, and the tighter I held on, the more I lost.
I know. I felt the same. It was like they were sucking them straight out of my head.
Because everyone was like, who is Aerith talking to in the room, right? When she's under Junon or something.
Yeah, under Junon's one of them. Costa del Sol.
Then Red comes out, but you hear this voice of Aerith talking to someone, and he's talking in this high-pitched voice, and then Red walks out of the bedroom, and he's like, hey, man. And I'm like, is she talking to whispers? What's happening,
Right.
I don't know what's going on because I haven't played the OG.
It's not in the OG.
Right, but I don't know that. I don't know if it's in or if it's not not in, right?
Well, because it was text, right? So like,
yeah, right.
You had to interpret, yeah.
Yeah, but like those scenes didn't exist with like Aerith talking to Red in some hotel.
Right. But all I'm saying is like, I have no context of whether it was in or whether it was not in, right?
Right.
And then like, I think there's a moment when they're in Costa del Sol and she's showering or something and you hear that voice or something too.
Thanks for keeping watch. I'll only be a sec.
Take your time.
Well, the water won't turn off. Johnny sure found himself a real fixer-upper. Kinda reminds me of home.
Are you almost done?
So I felt like I was Barrett, like, what the heck's going on?
Yeah.
But he doesn't get any answer. He just runs off. And then Aerith's like, yeah, you're such a softie. So it's like she has that relationship with Red. So she knows that he's actually this person. So it doesn't surprise her. But it just feels like, shouldn't this matter? I guess not. But to me, it felt like, yeah, a betrayal of trust because I have wrapped up so much in Red is just the person who I look to, like he gives the explanation of what the whispers are in Remake, right?
He's the wise leader in that way.
Right, he's giving us the explanation like I said before. It's like these visions of the future when you're fighting the like end boss in Remake, and that's like the craziest part when the developers are really doing new stuff, you know, and Red's giving us good answers. I'm like, I can't trust a thing that you say, man, because like maybe it was not true at all. So now my whole foundation for understanding Remake or whatever was going on came from Red, you know, like
and now it's all shattered.
And I mean, it's not shattered, but I'm just like, I'm questioning it now, at least,
yeah,
right?
Now you wonder.
And like Aerith was obviously the one that has all this information, but Aerith never gave us information as directly as Red did. She always kind of like looked at him like, it's okay to say this. And then he would like tell us, you know?
Yes.
But Aerith would always speak more cryptically about like, if we do this, this will happen. It's like, how come you know so much stuff, Aerith, but you're not telling us? Anyway, so yes, I thought it was weird and abrupt, and you know, the part where we try to get clarification from it, you know, he runs off, we meet him later, and Barrett's like, were you just trying to act the old man or something? What was that all about? And then he gives us his explanation.
This is hilarious on another level because if you remember back when we were on the boat, I call it the casino boat.
Yeah, the Michael Jackson dance.
And Red did the Michael Jackson dance. Like, he also had a conspicuously high voice for a grown man, right? So it's like, it's one of those like...
Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Are you saying that because Michael Jackson had a high-pitched voice?
Oh, wait, are you? No, you are not making that connection.
That's not happening.
You're not saying that they're foreshadowing.
It's kind of funny if you think about it, though, right? Because like,
oh gosh, Ernest, they can't possibly be thinking this. Are you real? I mean, somebody out there in the comments is going to agree with you. So
no, he's just thinking this now as we were talking.
Yeah, this is now. Like, I'm thinking back. Like,
you honestly cannot think in the game that because he did a Michael Jackson moonwalk,
that was foreshadowing that his voice was going to be high like Michael Jackson.
That's why he has a high-pitched adult voice.
Because of the way Spencer was bringing up how in those other scenes, like you would hear that voice, but you couldn't see, and you were kind of like, what is that?
It's Michael Jackson.
Versus when he did the moonwalk dance, like Michael Jackson had a voice like that. Like that was kind of a thing. So it's kind of funny. Like, why would you put... Like, aside from the comedy...
That is a coincidence, dude.
Well, think about it, though. Aside from the comedy of the moment...
I'm thinking about it. It's a coincidence. They're not foreshadowing.
Why would a Michael Jackson scene...
Nobody is like, okay, he did the moonwalk. He's going to change his voice to high pitch in a few chapters, you know?
It's not a foreshadowing scene. See, that's one of the things that I've kind of like, not figured out, but I kind of feel like these writers, like, they're not your typical writers. They're more like the ones that wrote Fight Club.
No, you're writing for them right now. Like, this is not what they wrote.
It's like Fight Club or Shutter Island or these other types of movies where like...
No, Ernest.
No, Ernest, no.
They drop these things all over the place, and it's like, in retrospect, it's like, that's kind of funny.
Fight Club, like, you look back on, you were like, oh, the twist, right? But the twist of Final Fantasy Rebirth is not that Red all along had a Michael Jackson-like voice, and they gave us glimpses of that by him doing the moonwalk.
No, but he was using it the whole... Like, that's the thing. Like, if you listen to it, like, you know what? I'm going to go back, and I'm going to, like, take a video, like a voice clip.
You do that. You do that, Ernest.
I'm going to take a voice clip of his and then compare it to like a Michael Jackson. If they are similar in any way, I'm just going to crack up because it's going to be...
I don't even know what to say.
It's going to be like, wow.
It's been a rebirth for myself.
Come back!
This is an example of you, like when you say you go and look for things, this is you looking for things way too much, Ernest.
Oh, I do. I go look for them because I'm like, why? This doesn't make any sense. Why would they do this?
Well, see, okay, I may miss the mark sometimes because I'm not looking for things that could have been intended but were just not told well in the story. You miss the mark sometimes, I think, my opinion, by thinking, okay, this must have an explanation. So you try to find one and you'll make up the weirdest stuff. Sometimes you're right on, and you're probably right.
Yeah, a lot of people will agree with you.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You're talking about the live stream and the white blood cells.
Our comment section is like, oh yeah, that's exactly what was intended. You know,
they're like, Ernest, crushing it.
Yeah, they're all into that. But then you say things like this, and there's no way in double hockey sticks that they were thinking about Nanaki's voice when they were doing the moonwalk with it.
Look, it's a mighty high coincidence.
I think it's a happy coincidence. Yes.
It's a happy coincidence.
Worship the floor that they walk on, those developers.
They're playing 4D chess, man. They put the moonwalk in there because he has his Michael Jackson voice.
No, they're playing 20D chess, apparently. Like,
I'm going to crack up if, like, at some point, that comes out.
That is funny.
That was like when...
it's funny if you think about it.
Another example of this that I'm sorry to tease you, Ernest. You know I love you. But another example of this is when we were talking about Final Fantasy XVI and Dion, they were putting the lanterns down the stream for Dion, and you're like, water? When water has mist, it makes a rainbow, and Dion is gay. You can't make this stuff up. And I was like, that is 100% made up. There's no way.
Someone did.
Like, there's no way.
I mean, they put it in there.
No, look. They just water rainbow gay. What are you talking about? Like,
whether or not it was related is another thing, but it's just funny that it's in the same scene.
My laughing is because I don't think they're related at all intentionally. That's all it is.
I mean, Dion survived, so, you know.
Yeah, he's a dragoon. I like that.
But I'm honestly, truly glad that you throw these things out there because they really are fun.
They're so good
to think about and talk about, and they are good.
They are. And like I said, probably not intentional, but it's hilarious if you think about it because the voices are kind of the same. Anyway.
I'm glad that you admit it because sometimes I don't know when you're being a bit cheeky or if you're being serious.
Or if you're being like, no, this is actually what they intended, right? The Michael Jackson voice.
You just thought of it on the spot.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's kind of funny. I mean, but like the thing about him disguising his voice for respect, I think that's very much an actual theme here, and they put it in there on purpose.
Yeah.
I think that very well could be the case.
I just don't think they
they executed it well, and so people who aren't digging for that aren't going to see it, and to me, that's a story fail.
Yeah.
Right?
Because I follow a pretty prominent game designer out there, and he speaks a lot about lenticular design in games.
Yeah, you mention it on every episode.
I always try to figure out, like, is that what's going on here, or is this just, like, something else?
Right.
Well, there's definitely a lot of that, like a lot of layer writing in Final Fantasy, you know? So I think that there are elements of that for sure. I just think that if it's core to the story or the plot, or as abrupt as this was, which does affect the party in a great way, it can't be written in some tiny little format. It needs to be clear in the narrative. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Joe, we need to know what you think.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'll tell you what I think.
Tell us what you think.
I have a lot of thoughts about this, as you might imagine. So for me, I was right there with Barrett's initial reaction. I was like, what in the world? I was totally confused. Remember, I played the OG, right? But I did love his funny little impersonation he does about like how Red just acted. I thought that was great. But I was thinking the same thing. So I thought that was really good on the developer's part to at least have that initial response because I think that Barrett at that moment represented the vast majority of the audience, right? We're all like, what is going on? And it's funny and it's calling out something that we need to have called out, right? But what's not great is that no one else in the party like ever says anything about this insanely massive change in Red, except for that one tiny line when Barrett asks him about, you know, pretending to be the old man or whatever, which is a brief conversation that happens later. Other than that, no one else cares. No one cares. Everybody in the party accepts it. There are members of our party who never say a single word about this. Like, it's basically only Barrett who says a couple lines. Red/Nanaki doesn't ever ask if they're cool with it. Like, it's just forgotten. And to me, that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It feels weird. This should be the main topic of conversation, honestly, for the party, at least at that moment, if not for the next few hours, if not repeatedly even over the next few days. Like, this is kind of a big deal.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It seems like Aerith and probably Tifa, at least, already knew this about Red, right?
I would say Aerith does, but not Tifa.
So
what's the evidence that you're saying about Tifa knowing it?
My point is, like, I feel like some of them already knew.
It seemed to me like it was a secret between Aerith and Red, and Aerith would never disclose that to anyone, even in confidence.
I think Aerith knew, like, when she touched him, she's got some weird, like, I can read your mind.
She's got some powers.
Like, I know your whole history.
She's known all this time.
I could understand her not reacting to it, but, like,
well, she doesn't. Aerith is the only other person that
says something.
That actually comments, and she's like, oh, you're such a softie. Because we know that she knows.
And that's the developer's way of reminding us that she knows.
Right. She's not shocked.
And tying together the mysterious voice in the past. It's in that moment that the developers are telling us, this is the reason you heard that voice, right? Is in her line.
He's such a softie.
Exactly. And so I can see why Aerith may not have reacted the way Barrett did. And I could see why perhaps if Tifa knew through her own way, whatever, but
I don't think Tifa knew.
Cloud didn't say anything at all.
No.
Yuffie doesn't say anything.
Kate said.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like,
they say nothing. Yuffie would have an opinion about this, you guys.
You would think, right?
Yuffie has an opinion about everything, and she's very loud about it, which is why she's so endearing.
When you die, you return to the planet? That has literally got to be the dumbest thing I have ever heard.
And she says nothing.
Yeah, silence.
I totally agree.
I'm just wondering, like, why?
But you always wonder why, right? This is Ernest looking for it, which is good.
Yeah, you're looking for it. I'm saying it's left out, and it's not good that way.
And this is where Jolie's like, it just feels like they never addressed it. Because as we talk about it, it does feel like they thought that was sufficient enough to just like say, okay,
just keep going.
We're doing the name change. Barrett had a few lines, and the whole party was present, so we can just kind of move on. Whereas like for Jolie, like she's like, that's not a good enough explanation.
I'm like, what?
And same with me.
And I mean, maybe they're trying to fall back on that whole, like, this game is silly. Like, we don't take ourselves too seriously. Just accept it and move on. And I think most gamers probably do.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. It was so abrupt to me. I was like, what? And why are we not talking about this? Anyone?
Yeah.
I want to have a conversation about it. Why are we not talking about this?
Right,
you know?
Well, because he ran off. I feel like he literally just took off and left him there at the gate.
Which is also weird.
That's why there was no conversation.
Maybe not the best choice.
Right, he just left him.
But then they never bring it up again.
But they also could have talked about it to each other, and Aerith could have filled them in, filled us in, right? Aerith could have been the explainer at that moment.
Yeah, that's true.
But they don't take that opportunity. It's almost like they're flippant about their audience.
It's very clunky.
Yeah, it just feels like I don't know. It feels weird. But like, okay, that's only one of my issues, right? The other main issue, or one of my other main issues, is the companion that this is what you were touching on, Spencer. Red is this companion that we've all looked to for wisdom all this time, and now he is totally dead at worst or a complete imposter at best. And we're just supposed to accept it.
Are you saying like totally dead because like he's dead to us, like that was all a lie?
Yeah, they killed him. Yeah, the character that we thought we knew is dead. That is not the character that he is.
See, I don't think that he's dead.
I think it's a character assassination.
You do? Okay.
I legitimately do. I do, because Nanaki is not the same.
Oh, don't say that.
He's not the same in the things he knows. He's not the same even in the way he talks. He doesn't even like...
Yeah, he doesn't have the wise...
He's so wise. Before he becomes Nanaki, when he becomes Nanaki, he doesn't even know what an altar is.
Are these altars?
So was he just making that stuff up? So was that part of his, like, not only was the low voices thing, or was he just kind of like being like...
I don't know.
Yeah, the whispers are the arbiters of fate, but I don't really know. I'm just telling you all this stuff.
He's just making stuff up, pulling it out of his butt.
To make you like me.
That's the thing, is that it doesn't make sense, because I think we're supposed to still trust the past Red. We're just supposed to accept the new Nanaki too. And to me, the two don't match, so it's hard for me to just go with that.
Okay, yeah,
and then to not talk about it is even weirder. So
I'm not quite there yet, but I can see where it's going. Like what you're saying. Like, I don't think he's completely dead. I'm just confused as like, I don't trust you as much.
Yeah.
But
to me, he died.
Is that Red gone? But you think he's gone?
He's dead to me. He's a totally different character. He was assassinated. They took Red and they threw him off the canyon wall, and they replaced him with this little cat, dog.
We're not doing any old Yeller stuff here, all right?
One of the main themes of this entire chapter is challenging assumptions, right? And obviously Red had some incorrect assumptions. And I found it actually very interesting that it's like the inverse of like a dog in our world, right? Even though they might only be 7 years old, it's really like they're 7 times that, give or take, depending on the size of the breed and all that. Whereas with Red, it's the opposite, right? Even though he's 48 or whatever he is in regular years, he's basically late teenage as far as like his development phase.
Like 1 year and dog year. It's like 7 years or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, living on a planet for 48 years gives you a lot more perspective and wisdom.
Yes, it does.
Than 16 does, right? And so
yes,
I could kind of understand the voice shift.
No.
Because it's like he wanted to give the perception of his human age as opposed to his dog age. But at the same, like they don't explain any of that. But that's my point. This entire chapter is about challenging assumptions, right? So it's like, did the party challenge their assumptions or change their opinion of Red here? Because it doesn't seem like they did. Like Barrett obviously kind of joked about it.
They just kind of accepted it.
They just kind of accepted it and moved on. And
their friend is dead and they don't care.
What's the plot point around that?
I know I'm not the only one who felt this way.
No, I know. There's a lot of people.
I swear there have to be others who think that he was assassinated. Like that was his death scene.
I think that's a bit.
And we didn't have any time to mourn him because we're not getting him back. Every now and then he'll speak in that low voice and I'm like, oh, I missed you. And then the Ninja Turtle comes back or Sonic the Hedgehog or whatever the heck he is. And I'm like, no, bring back Red.
That's one thing I actually agree with you like tremendously about. Like while I found it funny in the moment, and while I still think it's funny, going back and forth is not an option.
Yeah.
Like you've now let the cat out of the bag, so to speak. So either he always speaks as the child from now on, and then it's kind of weird, like for the rest of the game, or it's awkward.
And there's like, do we call him Nanaki or do they call him Red? I was writing out my notes and I did not even know what I should write. Like, should I write Red? Should I write Nanaki? I don't even know. That's so annoying. And it's just a small thing.
That is another part of the story here, right? So Red 13 was given to him by Hojo.
Sure.
And it was meant to, I can't use the word dehumanize here because he's not a human, but it was basically meant to give him a designation no different than any other experiment in his lab, right? So he was made less than immediately, whereas Nanaki is his given name by his family. So you got to deal with that, right? Like,
I think that there are reasons that they could have presented in the story along those lines that would make some of this make more sense. I don't think they did that.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So for me, it didn't work. But let me also say, too, though, I promise it may not seem like it, but I promise that when I'm playing this game, I'm not playing this game looking for things to critique, right? Quite the contrary, actually. It may not seem like that. I'm playing this game in hopes that the story just washes over me, that the emotions just wash over me, and I'm pulled in, and I don't like notice things consciously. I just want to be immersed, right? But when they do things like this, it draws my conscious attention. It pulls me out immediately. And then I'm just thinking about, well, that was dumb. Like, why did they do that? What is going on? And it's hard for me to just look past it.
Yeah.
That may also increase my intensity of my disdain for what they did here, what the choice was, because it was so abrupt. It's like maybe I was actually feeling it. I was in Cosmo Canyon. I was seeing the village ahead. I was excited to be there. I wasn't thinking about I'm playing a game. I was thinking about getting to that village and immersing myself in it. And then they do this and I'm like, whoa. And I felt like I got hit by a truck. And I'm like, what is happening?
I know exactly how you feel. That's how I felt in 16 when we had to fight the version of Kupka when they brought the rock track on and they jumped the shark in that game. And I was sitting there like, what just happened?
That pulled you out of it.
That's how I felt.
Yeah.
So I totally get where you're coming from. Like it took me out of the game and I was like, what is going on
You're
here?
no longer immersed in the story and like going along with it. You're suddenly aware you're playing a game and you have a controller in your hand.
Right.
That's not a good place to be in storytelling. You don't want to consciously realize things. And I know that I probably realized them more than many because my background, right? And I acknowledge that that's not a real blissful place to be. And it does make me probably more critical than the average player. But at the same time, I want you to know, like, I want the game to win and I want the game to pull me in and have me immerse and not thinking these thoughts, right? So let me at least explain my problems with this voice character, like changing moments specifically. And again, I should say too that I did play the original game, and I will walk through that in a minute here in more detail. And yes, I know about the original game's Japanese approach, which I will also address because I know that would come up here in the comments. But if we're just starting here with Rebirth, right? Since there are a lot of people, I think, who are playing this game who did not play the original game.
Hey, everybody.
Now, like Spencer. Well, so, okay. I said I was going to quote some of the developers. So I pulled these quotes because I was wondering, after reading some of the hate that Spencer was getting about not playing the OG and people telling you don't have a right to an opinion, I was like, well, maybe the developers haven't talked much about like new players coming in. I doubted that because as somebody who's worked in marketing, I knew that would be like the worst thing to say.
They actively promote people playing.
They have to appeal to the widest audience.
They have to appeal to the widest audience in order to make a game of this size.
They have to
have any chance of being profitable, right?
Yeah,
right.
And I can say right here, obviously we at Final Fantasy Files, we do not believe in gatekeeping at all. If you're new.
No, all opinions are welcome.
Right. All opinions are welcome.
I've got some weird ones. And that's fine. You guys can join me with this stuff.
Same. But so Katase, so he said about the re-trilogy, he said the development team aimed to make the experience fully accessible to newcomers experiencing the story for the first time. Right? That's Katase. And then Nomura said Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is being designed so that people can enjoy this game whether they know the original game or not. And then he adds this part, which I don't understand. Whatever. He also adds, in fact, new players might even enjoy starting their Final Fantasy VII journey with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So he's saying you can even come in at Rebirth.
But that's just marketing speak because that's the most recent game that came out and they're like, please buy Rebirth.
Maybe that's it.
If you haven't bought Remake yet, just buy Rebirth.
Either they're not telling the truth because of the marketing language and they know they need to sell copies and they're secretly like, well, we're just going to make this for OG fans and it's going to just be a lot of fan service, or they do actually want to make it for both. But I don't think that they're...
Yeah, this is a whole debate online, like an entire debate.
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't have time to go into it here. But okay, so at this point in Rebirth, we've just spent 9 chapters in this game and other chapters in Remake with wise old Red teaching us about the Whispers and the planet and giving us advice and encouragement as we went along our merry adventure, right?
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Right.
It's a long time. And then we show up to this hometown, and not only do we learn that his name is different, and he's actually young for his race, which, to be honest, if it was just that, I would have been totally fine with that. Like, that's fine with me.
Baby Yoda.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah. That would have been fine with me. But instead of just having it be that, they completely flip his personality to me. I don't think it's a voice flip. I think it's a personality flip.
Okay.
And then they claim that he had been pretending to be Red, the Red that we all knew this whole time. So he was pretending to be wise. He was pretending to be mature.
Wait, who claims he's pretending?
Red does.
When Barrett's like, what was it with the whole old man act?
The whole old man, like he was pretending to be these things.
Yes,
right?
yes.
He's like, I wanted you to respect me. It's basically pretending. I put the word pretending in there, but that's how I interpreted it, right?
I suppose it was your duty to act the old man.
I wanted you to treat me as an equal, not a dog.
So pretending to be wise, pretending to be mature, and pretending additionally to have this like low calming voice.
Without your help, I'd still be in Hojo's clutches, trapped in that lab.
And it's all revealed here to me to just be an act. And why? Because he wants to be treated like an equal. He doesn't want to be treated like a dog, is what he said was the reason. Now, Ernest touched on some reasons that I think psychologically make sense, but since they weren't presented in the story here, I don't have that to go on even later, right? Because I didn't do my additional research and come to that conclusion. Had they painted that into the story, that would have been really good. I wish they had done that. I think that's a really good idea.
And I will give you 100% credit on that opinion because it's true. I had to go find this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't just through looking through my notes and rewatching the gameplay footage. It was also like doing other research, trying to understand.
Like what the reason was.
I think that makes your point, right? The fact that I had to go look to figure it out.
Right.
It tells you that they didn't do the best job.
They didn't tell it in the story, right?
At explaining it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and remember, they're the ones, the developers developers who are telling this story are the ones who are saying we want newcomers and everyone to enjoy it. So if you're missing the mark and making the story unclear or slapping people in the face with plot stuff that isn't resolved later, then that's not going to win you those newcomers that you're asking for. And that's not going to pay for your game in the end.
At the very least, isn't resolved cleanly.
I would say it's just not resolved if you have to search for it.
There are reasons to do these kind of things, but I'm not convinced that in this scene, those reasons matter. I absolutely feel like this was a rushed scene.
Yeah, it feels rushed.
Yeah.
Especially the very end of it where he just like let them through, they're good people, and takes off.
Just leaves, right.
And it's like, whoa.
It feels like they didn't care about their audience's feelings enough to like dwell on it, but I'm sure that wasn't it because I don't think that they would disrespect their audience purposefully. But that's how it feels.
No, because think about it this way. Like, let's say you're taking your friend for the first time to your hometown. You're not just going to walk in
and leave them at the doorstep
and be like, yeah, let them in. They're good people. And then just take off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you're going to escort them around. You're going to show them, things. You're going to introduce them to people.
You would think.
He literally just ran off.
He just kind of abandons us. And then there's that whole scene that we haven't even gotten to that's like, we might not even get in because of the wanted posters, but then that works out in our favor.
Right. That's another one that was hilarious.
If those wanted posters hadn't have been changed, then we wouldn't even get in at all. But we won't go to that part yet. I still want to stay on this. So additionally, I had some logic problems with this. So I'll just go through, you know how I have logic problems with things. I had some. So I'll go through these really quick because things have to logically make sense to me, at least for the most part. So we're told, logic problem number 1, we're told that Red acted old and wise so that we would respect him, right? Where is the evidence that this particular party would not have respected Red had he shown his true youthful personality? I mean, if he's worried about age, this whole party, aside from Barrett, is just a few years older than Red's human equivalent of 15 or 16, I guess is what they say. And Yuffie is that exact age, and she's also this kick-butt ninja who lacks in all kinds of maturity, but she's accepted in the party nonetheless. And Red has this amazing skill set that would demand respect regardless. So I just didn't buy the whole age fear. Wait, hang on.
Okay.
In addition to that, did anybody not notice the theme park anthropomorphic cat toy that rides on a pink blob and fights with a megaphone, who is also part of our party?
Never seen him.
Yeah, no, what are you talking about? But okay, Barrett is skeptical of Kate Sith, but he's not skeptical of Kate Sith because he's a theme park mascot anthropomorphic cat toy who rides on a pink blob and fights with a megaphone. He's skeptical of Kate Sith because he's concerned that Kate Sith is associated with Shinra, right? So you take away the Shinra risk, and the cat toy is a highly respected and equal member of this party. Until we get to chapter 11 for us, I guess. But so I don't know. I don't buy the concern that we just think he was a dog either. But going back, if they had fleshed out the reasons that Ernest has given, then I wouldn't have a problem with this logic.
Sure.
They didn't flesh that out, therefore I have a problem with the logic, right? And then logic problem number 2. So ever since we met Red in Hojo's Lab and Remake, he has made numerous wise or even all-knowing statements about things our party...
Like prophetic statements.
No, yeah, prophetic statements, just like you were talking about, Spencer, about things that our party knows little about.
The flow of the great river that is the planet, from inception to oblivion.
He figures things out faster. He has control over his emotions. He's actually, mature. He understands complicated, etheric natures of things like the whispers and the planet.
The hell was that thing?
A weapon.
Huh?
Tutelary creatures, said only to appear when the planet is in grave danger.
And these are all subjects that demand a lot of wisdom from somebody who authentically understands them.
What's a whisper when it's at home?
An arbiter of fate. They appear when destiny is about to be altered and ensure it maintains its intended course.
I thought we already changed it, though.
We did, once. But perhaps now they preside over a new fate. Ours.
So he wasn't just pretending to say wise things. He was saying wise things in all these scenes. We could go back to tons of them.
Yeah.
Wandering around alone would be ill-advised. I insist you take Tifa.
So, while someone might be able to fake being older, you can't fake being wiser, right? You're either wise or you're not wise. That's pretty much how it is.
Even after everything we've done to it, it's still going strong.
It may look that way, but in reality, it's barely hanging on.
Guess I still have a lot to learn.
You either have knowledge or you don't.
To them, the proto-relic is the treasure of the sands, it seems, which they have kept safe for generations.
Or you're pulling it all out of your butt and you're making it up, which the developers, I don't think, want us to just discard it all. So we're still supposed to believe it.
Yeah, there's some lore explanation that people online would give you as to why he is doing this.
Well, whatever.
I mean, I think this is 100% just his own mental reasoning as to...
Yeah, but then he should keep that wisdom after this change, which he does not.
I mean, that's a good point.
Many years ago, this stretch of ocean was home to the Republic of Junon's capital, a floating city built atop a fleet of interconnected ships.
Nanaki never had much exposure to the outside world.
What is this? What? That it? Why would the Cetra do that? What is it? What do you think he wants us to do for him? It does exist? So how did they get out?
What Jolie's saying is true. The consensus online that I gathered, that I would not have gathered this myself, so I agree with Jolie, this being a problem.
And I haven't read anything online about this.
No, but like, you know the moment when Aerith shows the white materia to Red? And
yeah.
She's like, what color would you say this is? And he's like, none or whatever.
Right.
What color would you say this is?
None?
Thing is, it used to be white. At least, it was back in Midgar.
Materia is formed from the life stream itself. Orbs infused with knowledge, memories.
The Whispers. They took all that from mine?
These memories were precious?
Yes. Extremely.
There's this whole theory online that I'm not getting this, that like when they killed Fate or whatever, right? There's a clip in Remake where Aerith says, every time the Whispers touch me, I lose a part of myself, right?
Yeah.
It's or something, or a memory or whatever.
I'm lost in a maze, and every step is taking me further from the path. Every time the Whispers touch me, I lose something, a part of myself. I could feel them slipping away, one by one, and the tighter I held on, the more I lost.
I know. I felt the same. It was like they were sucking them straight out of my head.
And the worst part is that I don't even know what's missing. Only that something is. Like it's on the tip of my tongue, but I just can't remember.
Damn Whispers.
So like when they kill Fate, she has this clear materia, and those like kind of represent her memories, and they're gone. So like when Aerith touched Red, Red got all this knowledge. He says this, when Aerith reached out to me, I understood the meaning of the Whispers, right?
When Aerith reached out to me, I found this knowledge of the Whispers.
So after that, he's no longer wise. His memories were also taken away. Like his prophetic knowledge, his wiseness was removed, the same as it was with Aerith.
I did not gather that at all.
Now, this is like weird stretching.
If that is the case, then that is a humongous miss.
But here's the case too. Even if that's true, and that's what people theorize online, he still acts the wise man until the
change. Exactly.
It's not when the Whispers take it away.
Whispers. They appear when destiny is about to be altered and ensure it maintains its intended course. Orbs infused with knowledge, memories, tutelary creatures, set only to appear when the planet is in grave danger. It may look that way, but in reality, it's barely hanging on.
If that were true, if you no longer know these things, then you can't act like the smart, wise old man.
And then switch.
Halfway through the Rebirth game. Yeah.
At that particular moment. You would switch when the memories are taken from you, right?
My whole point bringing that up is like, I agree with you. I think people will justify these things that go on in the game because they're like, no, there's this totally perfect lore explanation for why this is happening.
Because they're searching for it.
Don't you know that when Sephiroth absorbed all the whispers at the end of Remake and then Aerith lost all of her memories and we have the clear materia, it's like, okay, I'm glad that you're on that wavelength and I'm glad that you're figuring it out. But for the common casual gamer, this stuff is not making sense.
And it's not going to bring them back. And it's not going to make them buy part 3.
And is it even that, right? Because I think at the end of the day, the simple explanation is that he had in his mind, for whatever reason, that if people thought he was young, adolescent, they would ignore him or treat him worse or not believe him. And so he had to come across as older in order for people to respect him. I think that's literally the simple...
But again, remember, that's the simplest explanation that gives credit to the developers, right? So it's the same story we go back to with all of our discussions. It's like, you're like, there must be a reason because I'm confused, therefore I will go hunt for it. Oh, this must be that reason, right? And that could have been their intention. They did not put that in the story. And if they don't put it in the story, as a storyteller, I think that's bad.
He's just saying like he acted like he needed to act mature so they would take him seriously.
So, okay, if he's so wise, my argument is, and I hear the lore thing, okay, sure, maybe. I don't know.
Whatever.
I don't know anything about that lore at all.
Yeah.
Here in Rebirth's okay. So when Red suddenly is revealed to be Nanaki, it's not just revealed that he's a different like age equivalent. His entire personality changes, and all that wisdom that we've gotten used to is suddenly gone. It's as though he never had any of this wisdom.
Living in hate can poison a man.
You still haven't forgiven him.
Why would I?
If we're supposed to believe that this was all faked, right? Because he says he was pretending to be the old man because he wanted to be respected or whatever. And even if the psychological issues that you're talking about, Ernest, are true, then he should still continue to be wise even after this shift.
I guess that's my question, because I got to the end of this chapter, right? And I've obviously gone into the next one.
Obviously.
Remind me where in this chapter we learn or feel that he's no longer wise.
So... Did I do good or did I do good?
Did I do good or did I do good?
There's just 1,000 different places. Okay.
The reason I'm saying is I didn't get the impression that all of a sudden he lost his wisdom when he changed his voice.
Okay, I'll give you a reason right now that comes to mind. Later, we do the side quest with the Gimbals, why am I brain farting?
Gears and Gambits.
So we do the Gears and Gambits. It takes us through some of the backstory of Avalanche, right? There's some nice scenes in there. We'll talk about that more probably in another episode. There's one moment where Barrett sees like a wisp of the live stream and he hears the voice of Wedge in the live stream saying something like, it's okay, or I'm okay, or something like that.
Don't worry. It's all good, bro.
And it's like a really touching moment for Barrett because it's like he's comforted that Wedge is still in existence, right? Maybe in the live stream, but he's still in existence. And Barrett says he just heard in the live stream, and Red Nanaki looks at him and says, I'm pretty sure that was just the wind.
Y'all heard that, right? That was Wedge.
Barrett, those who pass on become one with the live stream. I know what you thought you heard, but it was probably just the wind.
That's crazy.
That's messed up.
That is not at all what would have happened had this been Old Wise Red, right? I think we can agree on that. There's another moment, too, with another side quest with Bugenhagen, right? So we're going to all the different old life springs and seeing if they still have any life spring energy or whatever. And at a certain point, the whispers show up. And instead of Red saying anything about the whispers, he looks at Bugenhagen and he's like,
hey, I was wondering, do you believe in fate? That something out there controls our future?
He basically asks questions. He seems completely confused as to why the whispers are even there. Like, these are just two instances that I can think of off the top of my head.
When before, you would turn to Red and then he would give you some sort of explanation.
And he would give you the explanation, right?
They are drawn to those who attempt to alter destiny's course and ensure they do not. A glimpse of tomorrow if we fail you today. They appear when destiny is about to be altered and ensure it maintains its intended course.
You're right.
So these are my
You're
arguments about, like, he not only changed his voice, and we found out he was a youthful age, he changed his whole personality. He is no longer that wise leader that can walk us through all the planet stuff, right? Because he doesn't even get it. I told you, he literally doesn't understand what an altar is at one point, I think. Like, he asks basic questions, and then he sounds like Sonic the Hedgehog. So...
Okay, let's shake a leg. I think we did all right back there. Did I do good or did I do good?
Now, going back to my logic issues, right? So logic problem number 3. So this is a smaller issue, but actually Ernest touched on this. And I think it's kind of awesome that you did, Ernest, because I thought I was going to be totally isolated on this logic issue. And now I feel a little bit better. So even if Fred is the equivalent of a 15 or a 16-year-old in human years.
I'm not a child anymore. I'm 48.
He's still been alive for 48 years, right? That means that he should theoretically still have the wisdom of a 48-year-old creature. This is getting really in the weeds, by the way, and I acknowledge that.
That's what we do here.
But he should still have, like, the wisdom of a 48-year-old creature or something close to it. Even if you go with the idea that his race just stays like infants for longer and their childhood is more drawn out, if you're doing the math right, that means that, like, he'd be a 1-year-old when he's 3+ human years, right? And a 2-year-old when he's 6 or 7 or whatever. But once you get to, like, 12 years old, quotes, each of those 3 years should be teaching you a dang lot, because a 12-year-old can learn a dang lot, right?
Sure.
And again, he clearly showed wisdom before this point. So shouldn't he be less naive than he acts after that? Okay, I looked this up. Sulcata tortoises live 150 years.
Oh, tortoises.
This is just an example, right? I was like, I wanted to know, like, maybe some other species that are, like, have more longevity.
Jolie went looking for things, Ernest. Here we go.
I looked for this. I did.
When it comes to critiquing, she will.
Yeah.
And apparently she found the tortoises, so.
I don't look at lore as much because, not at first, I guess. But okay, so Sulcata tortoises, they live 150 years. They become adults around 15 years old when they're the equivalent of a human 10-year-old. If you were to stretch out and match up human years, right? So who's to say that the same couldn't be true about Nanaki's cat dog race? Like, are we just assuming that physical development is stretched out over his lifespan at the same ratio that a human is? Like, I think there's a little bit of a logic hole there. Okay, logic problem number 4. Okay, even if Red or Nanaki or whatever had been worried that we would have respected him less if he hadn't appeared to be wise, did he have to change his actual voice? Like, this is such a kicker to me. So if Red had started out when we met him from the very beginning and had that actual high voice, like from the very beginning, right when we meet him, but he's still saying, like, all the same wise things. He's still, like, telling us about the whispers and stuff. He's just using a calm, higher voice or whatever. Yeah. Would any gamer out there think, oh man, this dog's an idiot and a waste of a companion? Like,
no.
And let alone the party, right? This party of characters seems to accept anyone, including people from the land of misfit toys, including an actual misfit toy. Like, they accept everyone, or a real cat.
Let's be real here, right? This is a cat dog in a video game. So they could have chosen any voice at any point.
Sure.
And the pitch of the voice is arbitrary, right? At least all the way up until this point.
But how much cooler would it have been had he had the low voice and then we find out that he's actually younger?
Yes.
And we thought he was old all this time, but we misjudged him just based off of his wisdom and his voice.
Right.
How much cooler would that have been? I think that would have been a better way to take the story.
Yeah.
Hey, there's multiple ways they could. I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, this is a dog cat in a video game, right? So, like,
take it more seriously, Ernest.
No, this is real life.
Kidding.
This is worth dying on hills and yelling at people on X.
Don't pay attention to the moonwalk that he did. Don't pay attention to that. Just pay attention to how he told us about the whispers and what was going to happen in the future.
You can look at it from, like, 2 different angles, right? You can say, zooming out and ignoring the character itself, or the character's past, I should say, and just kind of saying, like, yeah, they could have had a high voice the entire time.
Or a low voice would have been better.
Or a low voice.
I agree.
They could have just left him the low voice forever.
Yes.
Right?
That's what I think they should have done.
And I kind of agree with you on that, to be honest with you. I think they should have done that. But then again, it's like, why? What does it matter? Like,
it matters because they killed him.
Well, no,
they murdered him. This moment, this change murdered him.
No,
they threw him off the canyon. He's dead, and I'm mourning him. And apparently you're not, and that's okay, but I am.
I'm saying I understand the concept of why they gave him the deep voice to begin with, right? If you take him at his word.
Yeah. That makes sense.
That he wanted to be respected, right? I could totally be on board with that. But then you have to ask the question, like, what significance does the voice change play? That's my question here, right? Like, so why do that?
I think they do it for a reason. I just think it's very bad. Like,
yeah.
But what is the reason, though? Like, I'm curious what...
The whole point is, like, Nanaki's actually a little boy. That's the whole reason.
Right.
And then, so...
And they wanted to make that extremely blatant.
Yeah, like, let's not only just say that he's a young dog.
To your previous point, it would have been cooler, right? Had he just kept the deep voice the entire time, and then they find out, oh, he's actually...
And then we find out he's young.
He's actually much younger,
yeah.
But because of the way his species evolves or whatever, he's very wise for his, relative...
And then that wouldn't have been character assassination.
Yeah.
They could have kept him the same, but then it could have still been a cool reveal.
Right, so why do it?
Do you feel like he was hiding some of his childish tendencies when he was with the party, and he didn't want to say them, so he's acting wise, but then he's in his home, he feels comfortable, the people that know him as like a carefree, like,
and he just lets loose, I guess.
And then he lets loose and he's like, I can be like...
That's what I think they're implying.
Yeah.
Which I don't think works.
And I think there's levels of it too, right? Because if you think about it, like, his actual age is more than double anyone in that party.
Yeah.
So, like, by our human standards, he would be a adult who's got many decades of experience behind him, knows a lot of things, right?
Yes.
And obviously would have a deep voice and all that kind of stuff. But then when he gets into Cosmo Canyon and he's in there with, what's his name, Bugenheim or Bugenhagen or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
That guy is clearly ancient by, like, human standards. And so it's almost like I got this weird kind of vibe of, like, it wasn't that he was acting stupid. It was more like deferring to somebody who was clearly 100 times wiser.
But that's why he told Barrett that it was just the wind when Barrett heard Wedge's voice in the live stream. Are you kidding? You know what I mean? Like, and that's just one moment.
I will say, you are convincing me of the character assassination. I was still kind of on the fence about it, but the more I think about it, I always felt uneasy. Every time I heard his new voice, I always felt a little bit sad.
Because you don't know who he is.
Right.
He's a brand new character.
But as you describe it and you bring up your logic points, it makes me sad and I miss our old friend Red, you know?
May he rest in peace.
Young Nanaki, whatever. It's like, I do call him Red up until this chapter, and then I just call him Nanaki from now on.
Yeah, and I still don't know what to do.
Well, I mean, you should, because that's his actual given name. That wasn't...
Sure. But what I'm saying is there's like an actual representation of, like, you're Nanaki now.
They even call him a different name.
You're a different name. You act differently. You talk differently.
He's different in every way, except for his physical shape.
Yes,
that
is true.
Right.
It is weird.
You know, and that's why I have a problem with it.
I'm starting to agree with you, Jeff. Yeah.
Also consider that, like, his name, right? Like, I think Nana in Japanese is 7.
Oh, that's cool.
And then Nanaki itself is an anagram, right, of Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
Which is no surprise because you have a Biggs and Wedge in here.
Biggs and Wedge.
Yeah, Biggs and Wedge.
You've got Star Wars people all over the place, right? Right. Involved in this game.
And we know that Anakin was one person and then he totally changed it.
Whoa!
We found
Michael
it! We did it! Let's not tell a good story. Let's write a whole story about some character who's an anagram for Anakin, Star Wars reference.
So he was one person, changed, and then changed again one last time.
We're going to see good old Red right before he dies.
Yeah, I don't think Red's going to change. So even if I were to accept all of these logic problems that I just mentioned, right, as I think a lot of people blissfully do, and it would be nice to be those people, but I am not. So I have a hard time.
Well, I can't argue with you there.
Even if I were to accept those logic problems. And you can even say that I accept his name change and the fact that he's actually like a more youthful age equivalent than we previously thought. Okay, fine. I actually don't have a problem with that part of this, right? The thing I have the biggest problem with, which is kind of a massive problem to me, is that in this single moment, and I've made this pretty clear, they completely changed the character so that he's unrecognizable to us aside from his physical form from this point on. So when we talk to him after this, it feels like we're talking to a stranger. Like, you haven't replayed this part yet, and maybe you even didn't even get to this part, Spencer, but like they do this River of Lights thing that we'll talk about later, which is kind of cool.
I played that.
And you can talk to each of the different characters in your party and have conversations with them where you have dialogue wheels and stuff. When I talk to Red or Nanaki or whatever, Nanaki, I guess, he is 100% different than Red has ever been. And I was like, who is this?
When it comes to my dad, Sorry, I can't. Still not ready.
I don't even know who this is, which is dumb because I really liked Red, and now Red is gone, and I am sad. And then I'm kind of mad because I wish that he was here. So to me, the whole voice shift combined with this personality change was just too much. It felt so out of left field. It felt so abrupt to me that the developers should have assumed that some people playing this game would feel like they had just witnessed a literal character assassination. But instead of just even if they're going to assassinate his character and change it, instead of even like softly easing us into that reveal that, you know, maybe it's still Red, he has like this different name and youthfulness that we didn't know about or whatever.
No, they ripped that Band-Aid right off.
Yeah, they ripped the Band-Aid right off. And now he not only has like all these different things we've been talking about in personality, they introduced an entirely new backstory that we knew nothing about.
My father, though, he turned tail and ran. He was a coward.
So he literally feels like a totally different character with a totally different backstory and a totally different voice and a totally different personality. And then to take it further, not only are we not given any opportunity to mourn the old Red for those of us who really liked Red, you know, I really liked Red, but then it feels like they gaslight those of us who are in a bit of a stupor over all of this by not making it something important for the party to even talk about or even have questions about or even concerns about it, you know, like how to some, I shouldn't mention it, we're going to get yelled at, but how Tifa doesn't tell Cloud what's going on or how we're just supposed to like accept that Biggs is alive in some dimension, maybe. I don't really know. It just, okay. Can you imagine if this happened to like one of your friends in real life? You're hanging out, you've hung out together, you've fought on the same side together, you've saved each other's lives, like you've traveled together, you've probably camped together, whatever. And then one day, like your friend's like, hey, totally changes his voice, totally changes his personality, and tells you, by the way, I was lying about who I was so that you would respect me. That'd be kind of weird.
That would be kind of weird.
And probably pretty uncool. And I don't think that you would really want to be their friend anymore. And if you did want to be their friend, maybe you're like a super forgiving person, you'd at least want to like hash it out and figure out where to go from there. Like it just doesn't work.
I'll just point out that happens more frequently than you think for other reasons in the world.
That has never happened to me in my entire life.
Who are your friends, Ernest?
Who are you hanging out with?
I have run into so many people who...
Give me one example. No, I'm not talking about running into people who turn out to be different than you thought. That happens to everyone.
She's talking about people that like...
I'm talking about somebody you trust and spend lots of time with.
You've spilt blood with.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about casual acquaintances where it's like you meet somebody, they seem cool, turns out they're a psychopath and they rob you of $3,000, which has happened to me. I am not talking about that.
Well, okay. I was like, that's a little bit oddly specific, but no,
I know.
What I mean is like, I've definitely like had experiences in the past where again, not my best friend who I've known for like 30 years, right? But I'm talking about like other people who I knew for at least a couple of years and then come to find out later that there is something fundamentally different about them that I didn't know, that they didn't share with the world, that it was something that they internalized for whatever reason.
Did that bother you?
It did.
Don't you think it should bother these people?
That's a good point.
In this game. Don't you think it should bother them?
Bother maybe isn't the right word, but I think to your larger point here is like it was abrupt and then it just kind of pivoted.
And it didn't bother the party.
And we were all sitting here like, there's a little bit more to say here. Like,
yes, a lot more to say. If this happened to me with a friend, there would be many words.
It was weird, but if you take it on its face value.
Which I do not. That's the problem.
Which is what Red said, right? Or Nanaki, whatever.
Yeah.
If you take him at his word, I kind of understand the general like theme here and what's going on. But even then, to your point, Jolie, it was weird. It was weird and it was abrupt. even getting to the end of the chapter, because you just mentioned complete different backstory. Not different, that's the wrong way to put it. Additional backstory that we had no concept of before, right? So now we're getting that, and it's like, okay, now we're filling in some more blanks here. Now I'm starting to understand, like you stack them together. It's like, this is what happened in his past here. And then you have the Hojo thing.
Yeah.
Now I understand why he's awkward as a character.
But even the backstory thing feels so sloppy to me, because why could they not have foreshadowed this before? And we'll talk about this more when we get into the actual backstory in a future discussion, because this one's already going long. But even if Red had this wise voice, like, why could we not have had some kind of hints that he was struggling with issues with his family, and there were things that we didn't know about him that we should know? Like, they never do anything like that.
Yeah, they don't give us anything about it.
So this is 100% abrupt, and it's weird. But I should get back. Let me get into the OG, right?
Okay.
So I know that there are some people out there who are probably screaming at me right now, like concerning the original game and even its original Japanese dialogue. So let's talk about how this like surprise moment was executed there versus how it's done here.
Okay.
And there's probably some lore heads that will pick up on other things that I did not. But
I'm interested in this.
Because I would say it's worth keeping in mind that if you're making a game that had an original, right? And this is kind of following the same path, and you don't want to stray too far away from its plot points. You as a developer might feel stuck, right? With some of the story moments. We talked about this, like you want to be loyal to the purists or whatever. And maybe there's some story moments in the OG that you don't know how to improve or dare improve.
Yeah.
And I think that's understandable. I think that we have some sympathy for that, but to a degree. Because I would still argue that if the story element didn't work in the OG, then they should take the opportunity to fix it and make it work in the re-trilogy, which they've done in some cases. They should at least not make it worse. Like, okay, but anyway, this is what I mean by worse. In the original game, in English, we'll start there. Similar to Rebirth, the party first enters the Cosmo Canyon village, and Red runs right up to the village guard, and he says, "I am home. It is I, Nanaki." And the guard says, "Hey, Nanaki, you're safe. Come on and say hello to Bugenhagen." And then Red runs off into the village, and Cloud says, "Nanaki." And then we approach the guard and we say, "Who is Nanaki?" To which the guard responds, "Nanaki is Nanaki. That's his name." Okay, so we know about the name change and the hometown.
And they question, who's that?
Yeah, who is Nanaki? And then also Red had run off. So maybe that's why they decided to have him run off right there instead of talk to us, right? But the only crystal clear reveal in that moment in the OG is that Red is actually known by a different name in that town. That's it. That's the only reveal in that moment, right?
Okay.
And that's the name of Nanaki. And that's something that I can totally get on board with and totally did get on board with in the original game. Lots of people go by different nicknames growing up just as they do as adults. That's fine by me, right? Not a big deal. So in the OG, this short conversation, this scene here, just made me more curious about Red's backstory. It didn't slap me in the face with the abrupt erasure of a beloved character. It just made me more curious about this character.
Yeah.
And then, as you run around the village in the OG, there isn't a whole lot that's really different about Red now that we know that he's Nanaki. The only real difference is the difference that came to mind for me was that he uses the term grandpa and like grandfather to refer to Bugenhagen, which obviously paints him as a younger creature.
Gotcha.
But other than that, his language style isn't very different, at least in the English version, right? He still seems wise, albeit maybe unaware of his family's true story, right? So there's that whole backstory in this version too.
Right.
But he's still acting wise. His language still sounds like he could be wise. He's not suddenly like, "Yeah, did I do good? Or did I do good?" Like, he's not talking like a Ninja Turtle.
I don't remember that part, but I'm excited because
I know.
Did I do good or did I do good?
He doesn't act like a Ninja Turtle. He doesn't act like Sonic the Hedgehog. He doesn't act like any of that. He stays quiet. He stays respectful in his dialogue, even after we learn about his youth. So I didn't feel like there was a big language style change at all, nor a big personality change. And remember, when we saw the entrance guard in the OG, he said, "It is I, Nanaki." He wasn't like,
"Hey, guys, it's me!"
like he is in Rebirth, right?
Yeah.
He's still using the same kind of language. For instance, when we first meet Red in Hojo's lab in the OG, Barrett asks him what he is, and he says, an informed question, but difficult to answer. I am what you see. And then he also says stuff like, quote, I apologize for what happened back there. I was merely acting to throw Hojo off guard. So I'm just giving you some lines.
Yeah, he's got this mature dialogue.
Yeah, he comes across as like being relatively wise, but it's also not like so wise that he couldn't just be a smart, respectful, younger creature either, right?
Sure.
And then similar to Rebirth, we do find out in the OG that Red is actually 48 years old, an old 40s person or creature. Those oldies.
Those old creatures.
Like most of the Final Fantasy fans in the world.
Including us.
Look, I look at the analytics for all of our stuff, and we trend on the upper end. Yeah.
We're all reds. We're all reds, right? So we do find that out, though, in the OG. Same thing. He's 48, really, but he's the equivalent to a 15 or 16-year-old in human years. And in the OG, it's actually Bugenhagen who tells us this. But Bugenhagen also says, and this is key to me, he says, he's quiet and very deep. You thought he was an adult? To which Red responds, grandfather, I want to be an adult. I want to be able to protect you and the village. So again, the style of the language and the way that Bugenhagen describes young Nanaki is that he's quiet and mature, basically, right? So
interesting.
The language style is not very different here. It's not different anywhere than before we learned of his youth. It's just that he's using words like grandfather, right? And he's talking about wanting to be grown up, which confirms that he's young. But he's saying these things in wise sentence structures or mature sentence structures, if you will. So to me, there wasn't really much of a change, if any, of the language style before and after we learned that he was Nanaki in the OG. And another thing that you have to keep in mind, right? We don't have a lot of conversations with Red in the original game. We don't, before we get to Cosmo Canyon.
Yeah, it's probably a lot quicker.
So his character isn't even drilled into us nearly as intensely as it is in Remake and Rebirth. Like, we care so much about Red in Remake and Rebirth because we spend so much time with him and we trust him so much.
Right.
So in the OG, that's not really the case. So it makes it even less of a big deal when we find out that he goes by some other name and he's actually more youthful than we originally assumed. It's like a fun surprise. It's not that big of a deal. But in Rebirth, we've spent a lot of time and exchanged a lot of dialogue with Red before this point. And then finally, regarding the OG, it is important to mention that the biggest difference that I find is that in the original game, Red never actually tried to pretend to be older or wiser than he was. He never did. We just assumed that he was older because Red was always smart, he was respectful, he was calm, he was mature, and he continues to be so. In the OG, there's none of this like, oh, you were pretending to be an old man, and now we know you're not. That is all brand new to Rebirth.
I suppose it was your duty to act the old man.
I wanted you to treat me as an equal, not a dog.
Bugenhagen says in the OG, he's quiet and very deep, right? There's no big personality change that I could see once we learn the truth. And the OG didn't try to force anything like that. The intentional pretending was something from the re-trilogy. So all this goes to say that in the original game, while there is a reveal that Red is actually named Nanaki and that he's youthful by comparison of his race more so than we may have assumed, it's a fun surprise. It's like, oh, we misjudged him. That's really interesting, right? Because there isn't a big change in Red in that moment. He still speaks in the similar way. His personality isn't drastically different. And there's no voice acting, right? So the written word is all we have to go on. But I don't know about any of our listeners out there, but I don't know anyone who first played Original 7 before playing these games who ever expressed anything to me about imagining his voice physically changing, like audibly changing, right? I played the game and just thought, oh, he's more youthful than I had assumed, and he goes by a different name. But that was it.
That's so fascinating.
But in Rebirth, that is not it.
So you're saying like the Rebirth developers creatively made this choice and you think that they just whiffed super hard?
I think they whiffed super hard, and it was totally unnecessary. I think that they should have kept his voice, the low, mature voice. And I'll get into the reasons why maybe they did this. I don't know, because it made me wonder.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear, because I've heard the rumblings online about the Japanese translation, and this is another thing that drives me nuts, so I could just say this. Like,
I know what you're going to say.
There's so much dialogue online about, like, the Japanese translation, like, how it should have been. Like, I understand that these are games that are made in Japanese first. Like,
Right.
I understand that.
Right, we get it.
But I am never going to play in Japanese. That is not my native language. I'm not going to read subtitles on the screen while I'm trying to enjoy the art and the animations and
Right.
like the combat or whatever, right? Just never going to do that. Maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I should learn or whatever. But like, that's just how I will never do that.
I'm the same.
So I will play these games, but there's so much discourse online about like, well, that's not correct because in the original Japanese version, like this is really the intent that's getting across. It's like, okay, like Square Enix, you have to realize that your biggest audience, the biggest consumer base that you sell to, and I'm not trying to be like haughty American here or anything like this, right? Is like North America and stuff like this. If you cannot work it out with your localization team, if you're like actually changing things from the true intent that the original developers had because you're doing things wrong, like I know that that's like the case, but like I am not going to seek out the Japanese original version in order to justify your choices as developers, right? So like,
right.
If it doesn't work for me, I'm still going to say, well, it didn't work for me for this reason. And I'm not going to go try to find the Japanese translations to justify the decisions that I thought were bad. Just not going to do that.
And I'm in the same boat. And so that's why, like, people are saying, oh, well, the OG is kind of like that. Well, no, it really is not like that.
In English, right?
Yeah, in English. They decided to gut his personality and voice in Rebirth and make Red go from this wise leader to twerp fraud and say that it's because he was pretending. It's all just too much. It's too much. Do you know what it makes me feel like? Ernest, you won't understand this reference.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that scene in The Office where Jim hires an Asian actor friend to like go to work in his place and pretend to be him just to like mess with his colleague Dwight?
Who are you? Who am I? I'm Jim. We've been working together for 12 years. Weird joke, Dwight.
You're not Jim. Jim's not Asian.
You seriously never noticed?
And Pam's in on the joke, so Dwight is just like losing his mind.
Dwight's like, wait a minute, because he's acting like Jim.
No, that is sensitive information only for employees, not outsiders.
Dwight, cut it out. I'm trying to work.
You don't work here. You're not Jim.
Jim, I got us that dinner reservation. Greek goes 7:30.
Oh, great. Can't wait.
I feel like Dwight here, and the Asian Jim never goes away.
Right.
He's just here forever. That's how this game feels to me. Which means that I think, okay, to me, the decisions that they made for Rebirth around Nanaki and his voice and stuff actually made things worse, right, in this re-trilogy rather than make them better. Because I didn't mind them in the original game, which makes you wonder, why in the world did the developers do this, right? And the best I could assume is one or both of two things. Kind of three, but let's go with the first two. So first, it seems like they might have kind of wanted the gag because they thought the voice reveal moment would be funny.
Okay.
Maybe, could have been it. Or two, they wanted to take the OG's version further so that it would still be a surprise to people who had played the OG, right? Like, you thought it was just going to be name and age, but nope, it's more than that. It's his voice, it's all these other things too. So it's like they wanted to surprise everyone, not just the noobs to the series, which, you know, I would argue it's not worth the trade-off. It's just not worth the trade-off. I don't think a joke or a surprise is worth destroying both logic and a character that we loved. I just don't. That's how Rian Johnson destroyed The Last Jedi. You know, everything was a gotcha joke or a surprise, and it sucked. It just sucked. And I feel like that could have been a reason here. So, I mean, as you can tell, I did not jive with this choice, and I'm consistently reminded of my disappointment every time Nanaki opens his mouth for at least the rest of the chapter, if not the rest of the game.
I was reminded the entire rest of the game I played.
Yes.
It wasn't just like, oh, okay, like I was...
It was constant.
Like I said, I think I'm coming around to your side. I don't think I ever was against you, but the more you talk about it, the more I am sad. And the more I remember those moments, like every time that he spoke, I'm like,
yes,
oh, it's that person again.
Yes. And so like for me, and we'll talk more about the backstory thing and his whole arc.
I can protect our veil and everyone in it. Which is more than I can say for my good-for-nothing father.
I could care less because I didn't know who that was, right? It kind of killed all of this stuff that could have been much more like heartwarming and interesting to me, but it wasn't. So I mean, any hope of the game just washing over my subconsciousness as I play is like gone now, because whenever Red talks, I'm like, that's not Red.
You like have like, even if the other parts of the chapter you're enjoying, but anytime
he talks, I'm like, oh.
Nanaki interjects, you're like, oh crap.
It's the worst.
This choice.
Okay, now before people out there start writing in the comments, right? I know that many defenders out there say that this voice reveal is there because it's staying true to the Japanese version of the original game. So let me tell you the arguments that I've heard about this. The arguments that I've heard are that in the Japanese language version, Red, originally he starts using pronouns that are more polite and mature, right? In Japanese, but then he switches to like boyish, only for kids / like youthful pronouns once we learn that he's Nanaki.
Gotcha.
Now, in English, he starts saying grandpa. Like, I'm not sure that I think that's a good enough reason, but some people do say that his dialogue in the Japanese also becomes a bit more youthful as well. Like, they say that he uses shorter sentences, even some slang, you know? And I've even heard that, like, a guard in Cosmo Canyon points out that Nanaki had, like, a voice change. I don't know if that's true. I could not verify it. It might be total bullcrap, but...
Because I don't know if you guys know this, but we don't speak
Japanese, right? But if these things are true, this could be a reason why developers went in this direction, if it's true, right?
Sure.
But because many of us, at least the Western audience, well, let me give them a little bit of credit. A lot of us know that the English translation of the original game was rushed, or at least it was a challenge, right? They had to do a lot of it quickly, which would be a reason that if any of this was in the Japanese, it wouldn't have gone into the English version. And that would also be why English speakers assumed that Red kept the same mature tone throughout the game, because he did in the writing, maybe because the translation wasn't great, right?
Yeah, isn't the OG original translation known for being pretty bad? Yeah, sure.
I mean, I feel bad. I've heard that it was basically like one guy with a team of a few others, but like they were under difficult circumstances, so I don't want to rip on them. But yeah, the result was that it was fast and they couldn't review it.
But even if that's the case, like if they're staying true, the execution again is so poor.
Yes.
Maybe you're staying true to what happened in the Japanese version of the original game, but
it doesn't work.
The arguments that you've laid out make sense to me in being like, well, it's still a character assassination, and this isn't who. So this is them being in that box, right? This is them being, we have to do what was in the original, or maybe this is like a mandate from Square Enix in Japan, and like the localization team is like, how do we get around this or whatever? But they have to animate this, they have to do all the like laughing, they have to do all the voice work. So yeah, that's tricky.
And I'll draw like a similarity here to another franchise that this happened to. And I think that you're absolutely right, Jolie. I don't know about the Japanese version and if all that's true, but let's just, for the sake of argument, say it is. I remember a similar thing happened with The Walking Dead. So they had the comics that became graphic novels, and they had this entire like path that they took with that story.
Yeah, I think you mentioned this on another episode, actually. Exactly, yeah.
I did. And this is exactly what happened to them. They decided they were going to make a network TV show, and the writers had to contend with,
do we stick with the original story, or do we branch out and tell something else?
Or do we modify things, right? Now, because they were doing this on network TV, and if you read the original comics and the graphic novels, a good chunk of that material could not be put on regular TV, the graphic nature of the material, right? So they kind of started walking one way, and then at a certain point they said, no, you know what? We're going to lean all in on the way the comic books did it in the original source material. The problem is when they decided to make that lean in, they were about halfway through the franchise already. And so they had brought on this entire audience who were not aware of the original material.
Yeah.
And they just revolted when that happened. And the franchise just collapsed at that point.
Hot diggity dog! This place is magnificent.
Because they put themselves in that box, and it was a lose-lose situation from the beginning, unless they had just said, this is a retelling, period.
Right. If they would have just said it right from the beginning.
Right. We're pulling from the source material's inspiration, but this is a completely different thing.
Right.
They could have gotten away with it. And I think you're right.
And these guys are kind of saying that, but they're also toying back and forth. Is this a different story? No.
Right.
It's the same. No, it's not. It's, so they're trying to have it both ways, which is even more confusing.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They've totally put themselves in an awkward position.
Yeah, they've got a hard job to complete for sure.
Yeah, really hard.
I mean, they're literally stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I'll point out,
Literally.
literally. And by the way, because my native language, we also have the exact same thing where
the pronouns,
depending on the pronouns we use. So for example, my children are bilingual, and my daughter was struggling a little bit with like, well, why do you use these pronouns for these people versus these pronouns for these people?
Like tú versus usted.
Yes. And I realize in a more modern context, a lot of younger people have dropped that.
Yeah.
And there's even older versions of those types of quantifying words that have been dropped from even...
I know. I feel bad. I talk to my friends who only speak Spanish, and I just use to all the time, even if I don't know them very well. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't go back and forth. I can't.
Because you're a young Nanaki and you can't be respectful.
Because I'm a young Nanaki.
And that's actually very common. That's a very common thing in the younger generations. They've kind of, I don't want to say abandoned it.
And it like offends my dad, like when my dad hears it, because my dad is fluent in Spanish too.
Right.
I mean, I'm only conversational, but he'll be like, you're not using usted, you should use usted. And I'm like, I can't possibly do math equations while I'm trying to talk in this language. Like, sorry.
Yeah.
That's my point, is like, I can totally understand if that's what happened, that in the native language, the pronouns that deal with age and respect are fundamentally different than what came across in the English translation. And therefore, you have a massive disjoint situation. I can totally get that.
Yeah.
But what do you do, right? How do you...
I think you make a change.
I think you make a change if it's something that's crappy. But the thing is, okay, we're forgetting something really critical, though, because I think even if they were trying to stick with the actual Japanese, right, my criticisms still stand. Because don't forget, while Red's change may have been more prominent in the Japanese OG, if all of this is true, which I don't even know if it is or not, right, there was still no mention of him purposely pretending to be someone different before we learned that he was Nanaki. At least not that I'm aware of. And that's the main driver of this whole problem, is I was pretending. Therefore, I'm a completely different creature, right?
Yeah.
So plus, I mean, for argument's sake, let's say that the pretending thing was actually in the Japanese OG, which I don't think it was. I really don't. I think the developers should have evaluated if the character sacrifice was worth staying true to the original Japanese, especially now that we spend a lot more time with Red before this change happens, so we care more about him, right?
Like, know your audience, yeah.
Well, not only that, like, they know what the English translation is saying by this point. It's been 30 years. They know, they should have known that no one who speaks English was expecting anything like this, and that this would be kind of abrupt, right?
Yeah.
And it's abrupt to people who didn't play it too. I don't know. I just think, I hate to say it because I know these developers have good hearts and they're trying to do something good. They're not intentionally trying to make us mad.
Yeah, no, they're not.
But it just seems like a bad story move to me, right? And if you're making your story worse, you should not do that thing. Like, you should not do that thing.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I mean, at least we can take some comfort, maybe, knowing that this was like Kid G.
Who are you calling a fairy?
It's not just a totally random decision, right? Not the best decision, but...
Right, but it was...
Kid G was awesome. Y'all need to leave him alone.
Kid G was so dumb. Oh, gosh.
And it's funny because I've seen some comments from our audience, too, like about Kid G, and I'm like, y'all need to leave that guy alone. I thought he was cool.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if there's a flaw in the original game, you should fix it in the retelling of the story if it doesn't work, if it's going to hurt your story a lot, right? Even if it means going out. They've done this with a few other things, okay? Back in Hojo's lab in the original game, Hojo talks about forcing Aerith to have sex with Red, which is an animal, so that they can breed. They don't do that in Remake.
To your point, yes, they handled it a little bit differently.
But that's what localization team is for. But the problem is localization team probably can't be like, hey, Japan.
Hey, guys!
This isn't going to fly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And this isn't the localization team's fault here, because these are clearly decisions made by the Japanese developers, right?
Yeah, and literally, like, we learned that the voice actors have to watch what the Japanese recordings were first, and then just be like, can you imagine being cast as Red and then just being like,
oh my gosh.
Oh, I got to do this whole shift.
Well,
You know what I mean?
It's not even that he does this whole shift. I watched an interview with the voice actor who I'll talk more about in a minute.
Okay.
He had to record every line twice in both voices so that they could pick which one they wanted to use when.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So he actually was in the recording studio more than anyone else.
Wow.
Because he had to double up everything, which is kind of crazy.
They had me record like every line twice. Or not every line, but a lot of lines twice. And so I think I had the most recording sessions they were telling me of any of the actors. I was like, why am I doing so many sessions? It's because I kept repeating the line as the other half of the character, depending on what you wanted to do in the game.
He's amazing.
He's so good. Okay.
Pause right there, because that's actually an important point. So what that means is that they had committed to what they were going to do.
But maybe they were worried it wouldn't work.
They just didn't know when and where those things were going to fall. Like, in other words, they had already written this story. They already knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But they didn't know like exactly when they were going to put things here and there.
Yeah, maybe. But
what I'm trying to get at is they were fully committed before this thing was ever recorded. Right? They already knew what they were going to do. They just didn't know when they were going to layer it in.
Yeah.
Well, of course, because they had the script, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, they must have known that they were going to do a little bit of this because in the scenes where he talks to Aerith, they're all mysterious. Right? They're all mysterious. We don't hear it. There's no way they were intending Red to use his regular voice because the sequences of shots was telling the story of mystery, right?
Right.
So they clearly knew something. But we do have some YouTube community comments about this. You want to hear what our community thinks about this?
Let's see what they think.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
So the Andrew John Bennett says Red 13's voice change I think was unnecessary.
Our Kingdom Hearts resident expert.
Yes, that's right. Travis 23, Travis XXIII said Red with the voice reveal is the biggest standout I remember. Guys, it's me. I'm back. Complete character assassination in one instance.
Oh, Travis.
LOL. Even Barrett said, what the hell was that? Yes. Thank you, Travis. I agree with Travis on so many things, you guys.
Travis is rad. He's been in the streams too.
Yeah. Roosevelt 716112 says, I think my favorite thing about the voice change is that I was actually spoiled on it. I follow a Japanese streamer and she was talking about Red's voice and the Japanese text, how he would use certain words and suffixes, plus how the Japanese voice actor for Red is known for his high-pitched voice when voicing characters.
Interesting.
And how this was a very unique role for him to play. I know some people really hate the change, but learning that it was a mistranslation and how for me personally, it adds a little something to Red's character that he didn't have before for me anyways. Okay, so that's a take. Now, Roosevelt knew he was spoiled on, he or she probably, I don't know.
But
was spoiled on it, so this wasn't as abrupt. For those who weren't spoiled on it, it's like, you know.
You didn't have to have this like total about face. Like you were kind of anticipating it and preparing yourself rather than just being like, Red is gone.
Right.
Yeah, okay, interesting.
Okay, the Zafari Zone said, I know a lot of people didn't like the Nanaki voice switch, but I never had a strong opinion on it. Conceptually, I think it's fine. It makes sense that he would want to portray a more mature guy towards these as a way of demanding more respect. It's basically what Cloud does, just he does it with his attitude rather than his voice. Oh, that's an interesting...
Yeah, like
that's an interesting thing. I think the difference is that Cloud really believes that how he's portraying is actually who he is, whereas Nanaki was pretending. But I think that's a really interesting concept.
Yeah. Like the stuff that's going to happen in part 3 that
because of stuff.
Well, yeah, but like
the things.
Because like he's not really sure who he really is, but he's trying to find himself. So yeah, I agree with that. At face value, you can kind of take it and be like, yeah, you know,
it's fine.
He wanted to seem mature, and I think a lot of people might have just like moved on. Maybe this is like what Zafari-sen's saying, which is like I get that, but I was always reminded of it as the game went on, and I am.
Oh, I was, yes.
But as I've talked with you more, I'm kind of switched over to kind of more, you know, I keep saying that, but it is a bummer.
I'm dragging you all down.
Thanks, Joe.
So the Zafari Zone continues here, says, I guess some people take issue not with the idea of a voice change, but the specific voice it changes to.
Yeah.
Even then, I don't really have a problem. It's quite different than his older voice. Is really cool, but I liked the new voice just fine. It fits for the youthful character they seem to want to portray him as. Now, is a 50-year-old character supposed to be that youthful? I probably wouldn't have made him 50, LOL. You're rounding up, Zafari Zone. We gotta keep us in the 40s for as long as we can be in the 40s.
You're adding. Yeah, so it sounds like this is literally just that they tried to go back to the original source material and it didn't land well.
Yeah, but it's like
but they changed it though.
Like they knew that they needed to do a change because of the way Japanese.
Right, because if the original source material had him speaking a certain way to adults
in like a diminutive form or
right, then it would imply that he was also switching, right? Because of
Sure.
Right. So like how do you portray that to a Western audience?
Right.
You don't.
Who is not aware of this.
It was dumb.
It's hard. Like
right,
you know?
right.
Yeah, it's hard because it's stupid.
This is them in this box.
Yeah, they're in the box, right?
Yeah, it's the box. It's a bad choice.
But they've made other changes, like the whole thing with the gi aren't even in the OG.
Right. They add all that in.
Well, so they can make changes.
The whole gi like island thing, yeah.
What? I never agreed to that.
Christian Castillo 1607 said, even though it made sense, I despised Nanaki's voice change.
Yeah.
I got somewhat used to it, not fully, but enough to not cringe every time he spoke. It was probably because I absolutely loved his old man voice. It was perfect for the character. Maybe a different voice would have worked better for me, like young Cloud's voice, for instance. Oh, that's interesting. Like kind of like a child more.
I totally agree. That was the hardest thing for me. I
love his old man voice. But I love his old man personality and his old man wisdom and everything about him that they killed.
That's the thing. It's like his personality goes with it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but
yeah, the next comment is good.
I do miss that.
Yeah, I miss that too. So Dennis Michaels says, Red's voice changes a little too much into Marty McFly.
Marty McFly?
It totally does. You're so right, Dennis. You're so right. It is so Marty McFly.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean? What are you doing here? You're supposed to be at home.
So a Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
It's Michael Jackson. They're both named Michael. They're both named Michael. You guys, they wrote that into the game.
You found the thread.
Now you're going to have me thinking about that for days because it's like...
Don't think about it, Ernest.
Yeah, no.
We've been talking about it like they clearly had this plan way back.
Yeah, that doesn't make it right.
So you got to string it all together.
It doesn't make it right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, Lacrima Project said, an elephant in the room is Red's voice change. I get it as a story-related issue, but it would be great if he asked the party, what voice do we prefer? Oh, like us, the gamer. And so what voice do we prefer? And we could choose. That new voice gets annoying pretty fast. Just imagine intro narration now in the new Red voice.
Oh,
yeah, because he talks at the beginning.
He does.
It was there, beyond where fate could follow, that a new journey began.
That would be so weird.
So weird.
That would be so weird.
They should have just kept him in his old voice, you guys.
Oh, I totally agree.
Okay, Angelica7 said, when Red revealed his voice in Cosmo Canyon, Barrett mentioned, is that why you put on the old man act? It took me back to remake when Red 13 was introduced. I believe that before he spoke in Hojo's lab, that brief second is when he decided to change his voice. Otherwise, if he chose his default voice, they would never bring him along with the party. I think they would have brought him along.
Yeah, I don't think that he wouldn't have gone just because his voice was higher pitched, right?
But I think they're right. Like, that would have had to be the moment. If the story they're telling us is true, the developers, right? That would have to be the moment the developers would have intended him to make that decision.
I think he does make a decision because he's kind of rabid, and then he has that moment with Aerith, and then he kind of waits.
Right.
And then he thinks about it, and then he's like, I am what you see before me, right?
Well, that's what he says in the OG. Yeah, he says
Yeah,
that.
but he's...
Oh, he does say something like that in Remake, too.
Yeah, he does.
That's right. So they stuck close to that.
You asked what it is. I am that which you see before you. Nothing more.
Then actually Joshua Coons,
what's up, Josh?
9517 responded to Angelica 7 and said, I completely disagree. Cloud, Barrett, Aerith, exclamation points, Tifa, exclamation points, are not that shallow of characters. Now, I don't agree in any shape or fashion with the voice change. See my comment in the main thread. But with your point of view, it would be better to say Red, not the team, felt that they wouldn't accept him, which is what Red pretty much says in the game. So he's arguing, no, of course they would have accepted him, right?
Red felt that way, but the party didn't feel that way.
So this goes back to the problem of they needed to really write a reason that explains Nanaki's...
Right, because Angelica's not at fault here because she's like, maybe they wouldn't have accepted, but she has to look for a reason because of this about-face switch.
It's the story missing parts that's the issue, right?
Right, and then you've got other people disagreeing, but really it's just the bad choices.
Right.
To her point, though, I agree. I don't think they would have not accepted him or taken him along. but I think there would have been more questioning of whether he was a peer and an equal in the part of the party.
You think?
Or whether they were taking him along like as an escort to save his life and get him out of there.
Yeah, I don't think so.
As a rescue, as opposed to a party member.
No. No, because of a voice difference.
I think Aerith says one thing to the party and she's like, he's cool.
Yeah.
She respects him. I think if you get in the mindset of Red, but this isn't spelled out right, and he feels insecure, then sure, it makes sense that he would do it.
Then it makes more sense.
But I don't think for a second that the party, like that there would be any reason to not bring someone along.
The anthropomorphic cat.
You've got Kate Sith, who's got like the thickest Scottish accent, and he's like, oh, let me tell you another fortune.
Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow.
And he literally works for Shinra and they still take him. Like,
Yeah.
they'll
I don't
take
buy that.
anyone who will
Yeah, I don't buy
fight
that.
for their cause. Like, there's no way they would have rejected him, I think.
I don't think they would have rejected him. I think what she's trying to highlight is like a difference in his position in the party, if you want to call it that.
Sure. But that's all on Red.
I think that's all in his mind.
Yes.
Right, all in his mind.
Right.
Okay, 17, I don't know how to say this, Jacoyne, Jacoyne, I'm so sorry, I'm pronouncing it wrong, but...
What's up, Jacone?
You'll see it on the screen at least, yeah. Says, Nanaki's real voice is too misleading, so not a fan there. And then Joshua Coons, this is the main comment from Joshua. Joshua Coons 9517 says, I hate the voice change. I do get that Red is supposed to be 16 years old, but so was Cloud in the flashback. Did his voice change? No. It didn't even change in Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion. So why change it? It made Red going from being a completely bad A that was wise beyond his years to being a complete wimp that views the world like a 6-year-old. In fact, I used his character regularly until the voice change. Then I stopped using him unless the game made me.
Right, okay.
They completely murder his character. Full disclosure, I absolutely love Final Fantasy VII OG and the Final Fantasy VII R series, but in the remake series, the devs had fumbled the ball a lot. This is one of them. Amen, Joshua Coons.
Jolie loves that comment,
I
Joshua.
obviously I agree with you. I agree with Joshua. Like,
Yeah.
I do think they murdered Red. I've made my point really clear.
Does this mean I passed the test?
And then going back to your point, this does open up the reveal about like who Aerith was talking to.
I felt the same. It was like they were sucking them straight out of my head.
So there was under Junon, you hear Aerith talking to somebody, and then Red walks out of the room, right?
Yep.
And then in Costa del Sol, the same thing happens.
Yes.
We hear some youthful, like, male voice talking to Aerith.
Take your time.
And then we see Red in the room. But then he's suddenly talking in his low voice.
Aerith, are you all right?
Which brings up a whole new set of questions, like, are not going to be answered, by the way. Like, why did Red speak to Aerith in a normal young voice? Was it because she speaks to the planet, so she knows the real side of animals? Or is it because Red trusted her? Like,
I think she just knows.
she just knows things, right? Have they spoken back at the Shinra building? And even if one of those things is true, why does he sometimes speak in his young voice to her when they're alone, and then switch into his low voice when they're still alone, but now the camera is in the room, right? Like,
Sure.
could they sense we were watching that?
It's to like have that moment of like shock.
It's just the mystery.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the same reason they put 2 hooded figures in Final Fantasy 16. They want to throw you off, but there's no real reason
Nice.
for it. It doesn't make sense, right?
Right.
So they just wanted the surprise, right? Now, I will say, however, that even though it seems like I hated everything about this whole Nanaki voice situation, we've talked about it for quite a while already. That's actually not completely true. There is one thing that was incredibly positive to me about all of this, and that is, Spencer, you touched on a little bit, the insane talent of the voice actor
Oh my gosh.
for Red,
Mhm.
who is also the voice actor for Nanaki. And I'll be honest, it was actually...
I couldn't believe that it was the same
No,
person.
Could not believe.
I thought it was like they just had someone else do it.
It was actually you, Speds, who told me
Right,
the first
right.
time that
Yeah.
both voices were done by the same actor.
And you didn't believe
I
me.
did not believe you. I was
You
like,
didn't.
there's no way. And I work with actors, right?
Yep.
This is my world. I did
Yep.
not believe that they were the same because the voices seem so distinctly different. Now, part of that is in audio mixing.
Sure.
They're going to mix a lot more bass into his old man voice, and they're going to mix more treble into his high voice. That's just part of it. Like, it actually will mix the voices slightly different, but that doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters a little bit, but even if they hadn't have done that, the voice actor was so talented in like both arenas.
Pliability is most impressive.
Even if you don't like the Sonic the Hedgehog Marty McFly version,
That's kind of pathetic.
from an authenticity standpoint, as a film director who understands acting, he's very good in both voices. Like, he's authentic. And that's impressive to me for a number of reasons. So first, sometimes actors can do multiple voices, right? There are some who have lots of talents in this area. Austin Lee Matthews, who plays Roche, he can do like 100 different voices very well and authentically. He's a great example of that. Arnie, who plays...
I was about to say Reno.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Arnie, who plays Reno, is another great example of this. Can do multiple voices, right? Now, usually when actors can do multiple voices, sometimes they struggle to sound authentic in their emotions the further away they get from their everyday voice. That's not the case with Austin or Arnie, though. They are both good no matter what voices they do, which is an incredible talent, right?
Yeah.
And it's not the case here with the Red voice actor. The actor is authentic and awesome in both styles, while at the same time, like, sounding so completely different to me that I was convinced.
Yeah.
I did not believe Spencer. I did not believe my own husband, who told me they are the same actor. I was like, you are wrong.
To be fair, I tell Jolie a lot of things, and she's like, is that a Spencer fact or is that
Or
a real fact?
Because sometimes Spencer will make things up and like just say them to me.
Sometimes I just kind of I think that's right.
I look it up. I'm like, that is not even true.
So she has to question a little bit.
Well, whatever.
Thank you for trusting me, but not trusting me.
I believe you now that I've looked it up.
Trust but verify.
Yes.
Oh, don't say that.
Okay, the idea of casting two different actors, because I thought it was two different actors when I first played the game, right? That was my assumption. That idea did not sit well with me because it goes back to the concept that I don't like this being two completely different characters, right? But no, apparently Nomura insisted that it be the same actor in each language. So, which I think is the right move.
Yeah, if you're going to do it.
But unfortunately, the personalities and the voice styles are so different that it really didn't score any redemption points for me by being the same voice actor, because it still felt like two completely different actors, right? Two completely different voices, which made it feel, again, like that character assassination of the original Red.
Yeah, so props to the actor, not props to the decision to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But again, though, part of that is because the voice actor was just really convincing on both styles. He sounds totally different. He did his job so effectively well that they might as well have cast two different people because it would have had the same impact. But a little bit about the voice actor. His name is Max Mittelman. I haven't met him before, actually, but I would love to meet Max because I think he's phenomenally good. I remember when I first heard Red speak, like very beginning, I was like, dang, they cast somebody talented for this.
I think everyone was like, dang.
A fascinating question.
Did it just talk?
Which was awesome, right? And I also recognized his authenticity right off the bat. Like, if there's a really good actor and you know what you're looking for, you can sense it really fast. And I sensed it with him. And this is a little bit of a tangent, but it all comes into play.
Okay.
Since we recorded our Chapter 9 discussions, Ernest and I had a chance to host a voice actor panel with the voice actors for Barrett, Aerithrude, Reno, and Roche, right? And that was at Mag West. And you can see the whole video on our YouTube channel. I encourage you to watch it. We talk a lot about voice acting techniques and things that go into this. And we've done also a few different interviews with some of them since then as well. And honestly, that experience and talking to these voice actors has taught me so much about the differences in recording voice acting for something like this as compared to what I'm familiar with, which is live on-set acting, right? Because I'm a film director. I do live action stuff, promotional stuff, commercials, things like that, especially these days. So some top takeaways for me were that the actors don't get the script in advance.
Yeah.
They actually don't get it at all. They're just given the lines that they're supposed to record and maybe a little bit of context behind them in advance if they're lucky, which is completely, absolutely insane to me. If you watch that video, you'll see me like react visibly like, what? Like it blows my mind. Do you get the script in advance?
Nope.
No. That's insane to me. Oh my gosh. So then you don't have any rehearsals.
Nope.
You just go in, you record
You record a line 3 times.
Yeah, so oftentimes we'll have like the script on a monitor and we won't even get to see the other person's lines sometimes. Because sometimes we don't need them and sometimes we do. So the writer will give us context, director will give us context of a scene because it is important for acting's sake that we have that if we need it. But a lot of times it's like a mini game, right? And you know that Cloud is going to absolutely bomb it for one of them, and then is going to do kind of okay, and then it's going to do great. And so Aerith is going to say 3 lines like, "Wow, Cloud, you really nailed it," or "Oh, you could have tried harder, don't you think?"
How in the world can you put yourself authentically in a scene as an actor if you don't have the context leading up to that scene, or at least in the scene, right?
Yeah.
Although in some circumstances, sometimes all you need is a little bit of context, and that can go a long way. But in my world, the actors have the full scripts. These guys don't, right? In my world, they have the full scripts. We do table readings. We do rehearsals if we can get them scheduled, like if we can squeeze them in. And then it's all about putting the actor into the psychological space of the character as authentically as possible. I've talked about this a number of times, but it's important to go back to. But then beyond that, because this is a dubbed game, I knew going into like talking to these guys that the actors were having to say phrases in like a precise time frame and rhythm so that it would match the length, at least, of the pre-recorded Japanese. But what blew me away is that the voice actors who are at the mic getting ready to record, they have to listen to the Japanese actor who's already recorded deliver the exact same line in that part of the game first. And then the English voice actor then has 3 takes to record it in English.
We just say the line, "Wow, you really could have tried harder." You really could have tried harder. Well, you could have tried harder. You know, we just say it 3 different ways and then the director will take from that. We also listen to the Japanese voice actors for every single line that we do because that informs everything that we do. So that's all part of it.
That's so fascinating.
In a weird way, tell the truth. Because sometimes you listen to the Japanese line and it's long and you got like 4 or 5 words. And then sometimes you listen to the Japanese line and it'll be a line like this. But that's how we would deliver it. But that shit is like this! And it's like, how do you... And they've already done the mocap, because we don't do the mocap either. So now we have to translate what we're hearing, how long we have to say it. Like, you're right, it's a box. And then we have to look at what they did if we have it on camera, because sometimes we don't get it where they've already mocapped it or, rendered it. So we're just like, all right, how am I supposed to match that to this and then undercut that?
And that may not sound like a big deal if you don't have any acting experience. I mean, maybe the 3 takes does. But if you know anything about real acting and the craft behind it, you know that by having to listen to the line first delivered by somebody else, it basically just turns every single recording into a line read with a given result direction, which would make it so incredibly hard to stay authentic and emotionally real in the moment that you deliver those lines yourself, because you're thinking, I have to sound like that person. You're not actually in the scene and naturally coming across that way, unless you're amazingly good. Amazingly good. So I know I've been critical on this show with some of the performances of some of the actors and definitely some of the NPCs. But now that I know more about what the actors go through, I'm completely blown away that any of them ever authentically deliver like real emotional performances under these dubbing circumstances. Like, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
We are so spoiled on a live action film set. We can take a number of steps to help the actor get into like a real place of raw emotion so that they don't have to think about like how fast or how loud they're saying a line. They can just be the character and we can capture it as it comes naturally to them, which usually makes for a really great performance. But there are so many more psychological obstacles in place for a dubbed voice actor that it's frankly, in my perspective, a miracle that any of them are able to give a good voice performance at all, which many of them somehow do. So I mean, all this is to say, like, my respect level for dubbed voice actors went up quite a bit after getting to know these actors and their processes. And now I can tell you that if an actor in a dubbed game delivers a believable and authentic performance, they are even more talented than we've been giving them credit for.
Right.
So the good ones are amazing. And Max Mittelman is very high on the talent list, regardless of how you feel about the voice changes in the game. So I looked him up, and this guy does a lot of work, you guys, as he absolutely should, by the way. He totally should.
Heck yeah, Max. Good for you, dude.
Yeah, seriously. So IMDb says that he's most well known for his role as Red, right? Of course. And also his role in the recent TV animated series called My Adventures with Superman. He plays Lex Luthor.
And what happens when he decides that having powers means he doesn't have to follow our laws anymore? Just him having a bad day could spell the end for us.
That's a character we know. He's also known for playing, I'm going to say this wrong, Saitama? Saitama?
So he's Saitama?
He's Saitama!
That was close. Could have burned my clothes.
You know who that is?
In One Punch Man?
Yeah!
He's Saitama?
He's Saitama!
Dude, One Punch Man is amazing.
That's cool that you know who that is.
Yeah.
I don't know much anime.
It's my nerdy anime.
Sorry, anime fans. I'm not an anime
No, it's cool.
watcher.
You guys know One Punch Man. One Punch! Okay, I'm done.
Awesome. Yeah, he was the main character of the show, and that ran for a few years.
Season 3 is bad, though, so we don't talk about Season 3. Or Season 2, but Season 2 was way better than Season 3. Anyway, keep going.
Good to know. But beyond, like, playing that character, he has a ton of animated series and video game credits, you guys, both for dubbed and original language kind of games and shows. And I mean, okay, just for the year 2025, I counted 23 different IMDb credits in that year alone.
Wow.
And if you're not familiar with how much work people do, that is a lot for a voice actor. And many of those credits were for multiple episodes. So it's like you'll get one credit, but you'll do like 50 episodes, right? So it's kind of insane how much he's been acting. So if you're wondering why we don't see Max very often at these gaming conventions doing voice panels about the Re-trilogy, I don't see how he would have time to do any of those, honestly. I mean, the guy has a solid career.
Yeah, that was kind of like my question. It's a bummer when we don't see some of these people, you know?
Yeah, a lot of them just have really, really active careers. I mean, frankly speaking, so do the people who do the conventions.
Sure.
They just prioritize a little bit differently, right? It's not like people doing cons don't have lots of work. Right? But I have seen very few resumes as long as this guy's, is what I'm saying here, right?
Right.
And as far as how he got his start, it looks like his first IMDb credit is for a couple of episodes of Sailor Moon back in 1994, where I imagine he was like a child at the time.
Yeah,
like he looks like he's younger than I am.
He's kind of got like that baby face.
Yeah, maybe that's it, but
I mean, he's handsome.
the way he talks is young too.
A good-looking guy, but he's got like that
Kind of like younger face. I don't know how old he is. I don't know.
I'm looking at him right now.
Obviously. You're just imagining him in your mind.
Yeah.
So after Sailor Moon, he landed a regular role 8 years later in 2002 on an animated Gundam series.
Javier Gundam.
Mobile Suit Gundam Seed, it looks like.
Okay.
And it looks like that was kind of the real start of his career, and he's picked up more and more work each year since. And he seems to frankly be at the top of his career right now, as he should be. I mean, he's very good.
Wow.
And if you ever like see him talk, like if you look up an interview or something with him, I think his natural voice is much closer to Nanaki's, as you might expect, right?
Okay.
Than Red's.
I didn't get to meet any of my cast for the first game, really. And it was only the second game when we started doing events and stuff together that I got to meet my cast. It was really fun.
So it's impressive that he's able to bust out that low voice at all.
My olfactory sense is 7,000 times more sensitive than yours. Bodily secretions are as distinct as any perfume. A single sniff of a person's clothing is enough for me to locate them, though there are a number of competing smells through which I must sift.
What do I smell like?
Like a man who's killed his fair share of fiends, I suppose.
Like blood and shit then.
Not literal shit, no.
But that's like good though.
He's so good.
Because like if Red is pretending to act wise, it's like I can pretend to act wise and give this authentic, you know.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Get somebody who's naturally like Nanaki
Right.
and have him pretend just like Red pretends, even though I think that whole story concept is ridiculous. But we've already hashed that out. But yeah, so Max Max, if you ever see this, I would love to talk to you about your process someday because I was really impressed. You did an awesome job. You'll probably never see this. So hello, viewers and listeners who are not Max. But if you do... And there is a comment from Roosevelt 7161112 says Max Mittelman does a stellar job. And fun fact about the Japanese voice actor, Kappei Yamaguchi is his name. Mm-hmm. He's also the Japanese voice of Bugs Bunny. Oh, fun fact.
What's up, Doc?
So you see, like, I didn't love the reversed puberty story plot, but
the reverse puberty.
I really had a lot of respect for the voice acting performances. So highs and lows.
So we must prove ourselves worthy.
So one final add on this, it should go without saying that while I'm critical on story moments like Red's voice change, and I can come across kind of bluntly harsh, I think, to some people, just know that I am very aware that this game was made by human beings, right? And as human beings, sometimes what we think will work well with an audience doesn't quite work the way we thought it would. There's really no fall-proof recipe for a story, right? And if you follow some recipe, a lot of times it comes out cliche and stupid anyway. So it's all an experiment, right? And I will acknowledge too, it's much easier to be a Monday morning quarterback on this stuff than it is to create something amazing from scratch. So even though I'm critical and I still think my criticisms are valid because I made them, so of course I think my points are valid, I believe that the developers of this game sincerely do want to create a game that we just love.
Yeah.
And honestly, as a developer, like, it's probably disappointing when something that you put your soul into, or at least a lot of your time into, isn't accepted by many of the people that you present it to. You know, like, I also know how much criticisms of my own work have helped me grow and, like, get better in my craft as a filmmaker. And honestly, that's why I want to offer the same honesty and grace, both, right, to the creators of the series that I love, in hopes that maybe it reaches a higher potential. I say it a lot. So that's why I say what I say. I also never want to be in the pocket of a studio to the point where I can't
voice your opinions,
be honest about my opinions. Right. Especially if I think they could be helpful, and at the same time I recognize all along the way, I am keeping in mind that the developers are people, not just people in like an internet sense, right? Like, actually meeting the voice actors too has kind of put this into perspective for me. The developers are not just people in this like cyber space kind of thing, right? Like where there's this big cyber gap between them and me, but they're people. They're individual humans with ideas and feelings and morals and flaws and families and pets and trials and hopes and two-legged pants and flat tires and tangled up hangers in the closet. I hate when my hangers get tangled up in the closet because nobody seems to ever talk about this. It is not worth going into now, but like whatever, who cares?
I like what you're saying here because this is like a thing that I ran into, to bring it back to the start of the episode, right? It's like so many people want to police how the art is interpreted, right? But these are human beings who made a piece of art, and they release it to the world. And the cool thing about art is once you release it, it's no longer yours.
I like that.
You developed it, and that's the thing. But it's a very vulnerable thing to do.
Totally.
I know this as someone who, I studied animation. I'm an artist. Creatives love to create. Jolie's a creator. I'm a creator. Like, when I make things and I put it out into the world, you want people to love it. And I don't think that these developers intended to make us upset with their changes or the decisions they made with Red.
By murdering him.
Right.
Sorry.
But once you release that art into the world, when I say it's no longer yours, it's up to every person and how they interpret that art or how that art affects them, right? So this is a bigger conversation. Like, all the comments that we get in, like, I appreciate every single one of the comments.
Room for all opinions, as long as you're not being a douche and trying to troll, because those people are dumb. But
but like, if you honestly like felt like this was a good change, or, you know, and this is what I like when Ernest disagrees with Jolie, or I disagree with Ernest, or whatever, we kind of go back and forth. We all interpret art differently, and these are human beings that made that. But it's up to us to speak truthfully about how we, you know, experience that art. And I don't think that's a bad thing to do. But the one thing I would say is, like, if you disagree with it, you should not have any animosity or hatred towards the developers that made this, right?
No.
I know you're not getting into that necessarily, but I agree with you that this is a type of constructive criticism, that you like these games, that you love going on this journey, but this was kind of a down point for you.
Right. But like at the same time, like what you're saying, like even when I disagree with their choices on something creatively, it doesn't mean I don't respect their process.
Yeah.
Or even the courage they have in their attempt.
Right.
Right? Let alone other elements of these games that they knock out of the park regularly, right? Like if that makes sense. Like I can never sing enough praises, even literally sing enough praises about the music. I just cannot. I just cannot.
And I think back to Spencer's point, I remember when I, was a very young person first learning to play an instrument, and I remember having a music teacher say something to the effect of the end result of this, or the purpose of it, is not the music that you're playing. It's the experience from the audience or from the other.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. It's a very personal experience, and everybody has a different interpretation of that. Right. And so you've given a very cogent argument here as to the issues you had with it. Whereas I looked at it and yes, it was weird, but it was weird for a split second and then I moved on.
Yeah. Didn't bother you.
It consumed about 2 seconds of my life and I was on to the next thing.
Whereas it consumes every moment of my life that I see the cat dog now. Like I cannot.
Yeah, you can't do it.
And so I was touching grass 2 seconds later after this whole thing, right?
I was burning it down. Lighting it on fire? I don't know.
But again, that's your interpretation of it, right?
Yeah.
That's how it made you feel. And so your opinion is valid in that context of what you experienced and everything else that you've experienced in your life up to that point that formed that viewpoint, right?
This is why art is so awesome and special, because it affects us all in different ways.
In different ways. And so
I like that.
I didn't really understand what the point of it was, but hearing about how, well, in the original Japanese, and I realize that's, kind of pulling it quite one direction, but it makes sense, right?
But at least you can see like where it came from.
Right. But if that is true, I can understand now why this went this direction. Maybe it wasn't the best way to do it, but I can piece together what was trying to happen here.
You see the intent.
It's not like they just made it up out of whole cloth.
Right.
Like,
to me, it's very clear what the intent was.
But that's because you did all the research, right?
Yeah, I went and looked into all of that, and there are some other things in this chapter that did not exist in the original that were brought in. Putting it all together, I understand the picture. And this is one of those chapters where we haven't gotten into it yet, but we will in subsequent episodes of this chapter. This one gets really, really deep. And I mean really, really far down there in the tunnel. But most people will not even see that.
I'm excited to see what you have to say for that, because
that'll be fun.
That's why I like these discussions, right? Because like the dungeon, I was like,
Right.
And you're like, this is intensely deep stuff. I'm like, okay, cool.
But I think your larger point is correct, which is we all interpret this differently.
Yes.
Everyone's going to have different opinions.
Yes.
Don't take it out on developers. If anything, the publishers. I didn't say that.
Or people that interpret it differently than you.
And who haven't played the original game, maybe.
I'm talking to you, Cleefas.
Don't say Cleefa. It's Clody or Claudie. I don't know actually what it is.
And Clara.
As staunch supporters or just people who identify with, say, Aerith or Tifa or Cloud, whoever, there are going to be those people who are the same for Red.
There's just not very many of them.
That's just their buddy. There are people out there who clearly align with Sephiroth, and I'm going to bet there's at least one of them out there who's a Hojo fan. So
I do not want to know that person.
Hey, there's probably someone who's even a Palmer fan. That's even on another level. But the point is hey, let's be kinder to everybody.
Yeah.
I think that point is important. We kind of started the episode with that, and I think we're kind of coming out in the end with the same message, which is there's enough hate in this world. Let's not add to it. Let's kind of take it the other direction. Yeah.
Kumbaya, my lord.
I was like, what are you singing?
Someone's praying, my lord. Okay. I think that's well said. I do like that we bookended it with that. That is an important message, I think, And that's frankly all we have time for, which is hilarious because that means that we spent this whole episode progressing 1 minute in the game. 1 minute, you guys.
We're never finishing this.
That is a new record, even for us. And there's so much more to discuss in this chapter alone. Even around Nanaki, clearly there's so much more. So keep an eye out for future discussions because they're going to be coming. And I am trying to release them sooner than 3 months apart. So I guess we can close it up here with a nice little bow. As most of you know, or all of you maybe, we are the Final Fantasy Files, and we can be found anywhere you get your podcasts. And you can see the video version on either Spotify or YouTube, and we encourage you to follow us on our dedicated YouTube channel. And you can lend your support by leaving a like and a comment, and those matter. I noticed, like, oh, we have 2 more likes on this than we did yesterday, which is so silly. We're not doing it for likes, but it's nice to know that what we're putting our own art, I guess you could say, out there into the world when other people appreciate it, and that's a way to show that you do, and the comments that come from that as well.
Yeah, that's the best way to like or to comment on it.
Yeah.
That's the way to tell the algorithm that, like,
we're worth something.
A lot of people might not leave a comment or something, but if you enjoyed it, don't be afraid to say hi in the comments. We don't bite.
Not much.
It helps us, and it's the best way to get the video out there.
We're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're anywhere you can get your podcasts, audio and video. So give us a review there, let us know what you think. And I think the most important thing you can do is just share us with other friends who might like this kind of content.
Yeah.
When you tell other people who are fans of this franchise or just of JRPGs in general, and they discover us, that helps tremendously too, because it's kind of like an organic growth and discovery, which I know the algorithm is also looking for. So if you happen to know other people who love this type of content, please share it with them.
And anybody who has a Switch who might be getting the game coming up, let them know, drop a little hint in their ear that we're here and we can play the game with them.
Yeah, welcome to Rebirth, you guys.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can beat the deep dive before you beat the game. Rebirth doesn't come out until June 3rd, and I don't think we'll finish in that time.
Yeah, that's not happening for sure. But then also, in a final reminder too, if you do want to have a comment read in a future discussion for Chapter 10, it's not too late to leave a comment on the stuff that we haven't covered yet. Just go to the posts tab of our YouTube channel and look for the picture of red that says we want your opinions and leave a comment on that post. I do try to check it right before we record so that I get as many of the recent ones as possible, and we'll try to go through as many as time allows in those chapter discussions. And with that, walk tall, my friends.
And may the flames of the... I had to laugh at that one. Okay.
I broke Ernest. I broke him.
You never make Ernest laugh.
I know. That was an amazing moment. We're keeping that in.
It is. Oh, and there's something else I want you to keep in. I will be in April at the Midwest Gaming Classic. I believe it's Minneapolis, Minnesota. I will be in attendance there.
Oh.
So if you happen to be there.
Early or late April?
I believe it's towards the latter, like somewhere between the mid to the back end.
I should have this out by then, so we should be okay.
I figured, so I wanted to make sure it got in here.
Yeah.
Now you have to do your outro transition.
And may the flames of the Phoenix teach you that you can be your authentic self, no matter what, as long as you're around your friends, and live your own truth.
But if you do it, don't change your voice abruptly and make us feel like you're not the real person.
And there's only the truth. There's not your truth.
I think humans are kinder in general than people give them credit for.
I think so. But I am not going to be satisfied until I hear Spencer's outro. You have to do the same one as last time. I think it's so good.
Which one was it?
I have to say what?
It's the thing you would say on stream in the funny accent.
Okay, thank you.
That's your outro. I've decided.
Because I was going to just say, see you later, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And obviously, if you've streamed with me, I'll just see you later. All you cheeky little blotters, you're getting out of here. We'll see you next time.
That's the one.